Good evening and welcome to the January 25th meeting of the Planning Policy Commission. Welcome all of you. As you can see, we're back to our roundtable and we have some additions to the Planning Policy Commission. You can tell the members of the Planning Policy because we actually have name tags in front of us, but there are a few people around this table that have been supported of us for a while, and so I'd like to just have them say your name so that the rest of the Planning Policy people know who you are. You don't have to go explain anything. It's just, tell us your name so we know how to interface with you.
Well, I'm Mel Morgan. I serve on the Development Commission, and I was on the Central Area Task Force as well.
And I'm Carrie McGill with Raleigh Properties.
And I'm Kathy McCoy. I'm the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome. And well, tonight we're going to, we have a lot of different things that we're going to talk about tonight. The first one, Trish is going to tell us about a possible change to one of the areas on the comprehensive plan that is being changed or proposed tonight. So, Trish, why don't you just go on and tell us about it?
Just a quick update. We have a new mayor. And the new mayor was very interested in the comp plan docket. So she asked to see it. She loved what you did with it. She loved the ones that you added, and she wanted to add 2 more. And she wanted us to let you know that she added 2 more, so you would know that she was very supportive of the docket you put together, but she was pretty excited to add 2 more. And so these are the 2. One of them was, there are a couple of policies about ST3, Sound Transit 3, that she wanted us to she called it a tactical revision. Part of it was about the spur, and part of it was about the maintenance yard. The other one was to expand on the policy on number 5, which was the building on slopes. She wanted to prioritize acquisition of forested hillsides and lands that connect, enhance connections to public lands. So she was hopeful that you would be supportive of adding those to the ones that you added, and these will all get reviewed at Land and Shore on February 8th. Okay, that's all for me.
So exactly what are they?
Those are the 2. Those would be now docket items.
Okay, so it will be...
It'd be added to the list of comp plan amendments. So I think you had 16, and this would be 17 and 18.
Okay.
So yeah, it's going to be a big year.
Does anybody have a problem with that? Questions?
Okay.
Okay.
So now I think, Jen, because you want to save the minutes for later, or
What?
you want to save the minutes because we couldn't do minutes last night, or do you want to do those later?
They haven't...
He's telling me to do the minutes.
The minutes weren't in their packet, so I'm not sure
Oh, okay, because they were last night.
if we should do
We'll
that.
roll them into the next packet that we do, because I think we have some meetings coming
So
up.
next time we'll have 4 minutes to approve,
Okay, that'd be fun.
unless everybody is up to date on all the minutes. Have you read them all? You go back to, what?
The January 10th and 11th meetings. One was on safe injection sites, and the next one was on visions.
Has everybody read them?
I reviewed them for last night's meeting, yeah.
Yes? No? You haven't read them? So I don't have a choice but to wait till
Okay,
next
I'll attach
time.
them to the next agenda, so then there'd be 4.
Okay. Okay, with that, go ahead.
So not on the agenda, but we're going to take an opportunity to do a very brief introduction for Jeff Watling. So Jeff Watling is the city's park director. And Jeff's going to come up and just say a couple words about the next Planning Policy Commission meeting, where we're going to, actually not the next one, that's small cell. The next one after that, which is the green necklace, green network, green something stuff, and the kind of the meshing with the park board. So Jeff.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anxious to create this green network.
Okay, good. So are we. So yeah, thank you, Keith. Jeff Watling, Parks and Recreation Director with Issaquah. As you've been hard at work doing your stuff and important work, we have been working with the Park Board on the Park Strategic Plan. I've been working with development services and planning staff around how do we start to mesh these two important documents and plans. We have been working with a consultant, Berger Partnership, or a landscape architect firm that's been doing some terrific work, really at its heart looking at our existing park system and how do we begin to create a system-wide really vision for that system. How do we begin to connect it, better connect it? In recent weeks, as we've been talking with planning staff and hearing some of the work that you're doing here in the coming months, we feel there's an opportunity to do some collaborative work as we're beginning to wrap up the park plan. And so what we have proposed and we would love to do is on February 8th, we're working on the scope right now with our landscape architect, but have Berger Partnership come, invite the park board to come. I understand the original task force members have been part of this group, and all of you and the work that you've done. And let's do a charrette exercise. If you're familiar with charrette, very engaging, very active, very interactive, a lot of map work. And let's spend that meeting and perhaps another meeting in February and really put the collective heads together of all the great work that you've done. And I think what we'll produce, I'm quite confident what we'll produce, is a more defined vision of the necklace and how that incorporates into the public system, meets the goals within the Central Issaquah visions, and the product we'll get will then help to, A, inform the park strategic plan. We take that outcome, that product, and weave that right into the park strategic plan, and it would be an outcome that we would hope really becomes an important element of the Central Issaquah visions work in terms of that necklace piece. And then I think another real positive outcome there is this work then becomes that bridge between the park strategic plan and the Central Issaquah visions work, and we end up with a meshed and coordinated product.
So before the meeting on the 8th, will we be able to get any information of what you're planning so that we come into the meeting with some knowledge of what's going on and how we can work?
Great question. So yes, absolutely. We want to, as we're working with a consultant and framing what that evening looks like, hopefully prepare you with a series of questions, a series of sort of what that evening is going to look like, what we're going to start with in terms of mapping. So yeah.
We have 4-hour
hard at work.
meetings, so I want you to be prepared.
Jeff, are you going to bring in information, or I assume the information from what the online survey for the whole how would you spend your money on parks, is that included in your parks plan and what we're going to see?
And help me understand the question.
No, there was an online survey to the
right.
community.
Yes.
I assume that's closed, and are we looking at any of that information, or has that already been digested by the Parks Board and what we're seeing as the results of that?
Somewhat digested. I think what we plan on starting with, some of the starting information is one of the products will be a map of the park plan that identifies strategic projects. And those strategic projects were directly informed by that public outreach and that public feedback. If that's...
None of them were informed by the public feedback?
So they were all informed.
Okay, I was going to say, okay, good.
Sorry,
good.
the siren
Yes,
maybe
yeah.
modified my word, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic, thanks.
Thank you.
You bet.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Us too.
Okay, next up on our meeting is the Economic Development Director, Jen.
Not the
And-
director, but yes. I got
She
a
is gonna
promotion, I
talk
love it. Don't tell Keith.
Transit-oriented development project that the city is working on.
Hi. So my name is Jen Davis Hayes. I am the Economic Development Manager here at the city, and I also have two of our development team, Hal Ferris, who's with Spectrum Development Group Solutions, and Dan Landis from King County Housing Authority. So we're really excited to be here to talk to you about the TOD, the Transit Oriented Development Project, which we've been working on for a while. And up front, there's a lot of pieces, moving pieces, and complexity. And so we tried to outline, kind of the pieces that are the most important and show you a little bit about the process. This has been a project that's been going on since 2016 and will continue to go on as far as decision making throughout this year and next. So this is by no means complete. There are opportunities for input and it's not a fixed, this is exactly how it's going to be. So tonight, really, we just want to talk about the project process, an overview, and then talk about next steps. So first, why? Why are we doing this? So the Economic Vitality Commission helped us with one of the council goals they had to look at what would be an anchor project for the central Issaquah area. So as you know, the central Issaquah plan was adopted about almost 6 years ago, and we hadn't seen the type of development that we had envisioned immediately. And one of the things that council asked us to look at is what could we do that could actually kind of help to spur development or represent the development that we want to see in Central Issaquah. So we did a anchor project report, and there were 4 things that were identified. One of them was looking at creating a transit-oriented development site next to the Issaquah Transit Center down on the valley floor. As you may know, that site is currently occupied by CenturyLink, and they use it basically as a place to park their work vehicles or their personal vehicles during the day and dispatch trucks out of there in a small office space. So obviously in our urban core, we want to see something right next to this transit center that offers more opportunities for the pedestrian-friendly urban lifestyle. The public-private partnership is something that's important for us, so making sure that we as a city partner with experts in the field to get a project done. As you know, affordable housing is not happening in the Central Issaquah area. This is something that also is important for as part of the development moratorium, and then vertical mixed-use aspects of development wasn't happening. One of the things we also looked at is wanting to expand human services, and so I'll explain how that loops in here, but the city did a community needs assessment and obviously showed that there were some opportunities and some gaps of services. And this project, we hope, will better connect folks to the area amenities, so the people who are going to be living there are going to have a better connection in that area to the transit center and Tibbetts Valley Park. So it hits a lot of goals the city has, and so we're really excited that we can bring these all together. This is a very general project timeline. There's about 400 steps in here that are not reflected, but in general, we published an RFP at the end of 2016. We had 4 responses. 4? Yes. And we interviewed the teams. We selected this team here today at the beginning of 2017. We worked on memorandums of understanding that basically showed the intent of our partnership. That was adopted and signed by the city in August. And really one of the key things that drove this project is that in the summer of 2016, the King County Council created what's called a King County TOD fund, and they put $83 million towards projects throughout the county that would benefit from putting affordable housing near a transit-oriented development site. We, in this area, from I-90, from Issaquah to North Bend, were allocated $10 million. So of that 82, there's a portion that can go to anybody in the county, but this $10 million had to be spent within this area. We in Issaquah really were the only, this is like one of the few sites that actually qualified for that $10 million because of criteria. And so we applied for that money, I should say King County Housing Authority applied for that money, and they received that award designation in December of last year, so we received $10 million towards the project. So that's, we're able to then to provide additional affordable housing then beyond what we could, would already been able to provide. So we're here today to tell you a little bit about the project. We plan to do a community outreach tentatively at the end of February, and then we'll also be working on the development agreement. So the MOU has the general intent. The development agreement will be the binding details of that, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that. This year then, there'll be design and permitting work that the development team will be doing. Construction will start in the next few years, and the TUSD site will be done in 2021. Any questions? So one of the things that these next two slides portray is that we've been to council a lot, and we've been to out talking about different topics, but it's been various pieces of the puzzle for the transit-oriented development. So I just outlined here when we've been in front of council, and so if you can always go back and look at the presentation or the minutes from that, or the agenda packet from those meetings, but basically we've been in front of council twice to talk in general about the project, so it's something similar tonight. We were in front of council for the annexation, for the MOUs, for the Opportunity Center, and again, we'll get more details, for the multifamily tax exemption, and for actually the short platting of a property in order to provide the relocation site. So this gives you some details of where you can go and find more information about specific things if you're interested in that. Any questions about general process? Because again, there's a lot of things still to come. Okay, so kind of got into a little bit of the details, but this is the site. So to orient yourself, you can see Tibbetts Valley Park at the bottom of the picture. The project site's there in orange. They're currently owned by CenturyLink. We, again, identified this as an anchor project potential in 2014-15, and maybe it was 15. And at the time, CenturyLink's like, we're happy where we are. This is a great site for us. We didn't have another location in the city to actually look at them moving to, and we were not in this. There was really nothing kind of moving forward until we were able to identify a parcel in the other side of town. The general components of the TOD is a vertical mixed-use building, which is really exciting because we have not seen that development type yet happen in the central Issaquah area. There will be approximately 60 units, 325, yeah, 60? Okay. I was like, look at that number. About 175 of those are going to be affordable. There'll be some ground floor commercial space, and again, the connection to the amenities I mentioned before. So a lot of questions about what does this affordable housing look like? And so this provides you the range of unit sizes by size of the unit, how many of those units there are, what percentage of they are affordable, and the last column is actually income affordable. It should say AMI behind that. So I think you guys during the affordable housing conversation have heard that term AMI, area median income. And so as you see, we're creating affordable housing for 40%, 60%, and 80% AMI families. We're also providing housing, so it's not that only studio sizes are going to be affordable to people in the community, but also up to 3 bedrooms, which is going to address families who cannot afford rents currently in Issaquah. Any questions or thoughts? Yeah.
So I see the note that this is proposed range and it may be different. Would it be finalized in the development agreement then? The actual mix of affordable units and the size ratio and all of that?
I'm going to have Hal. It looks like he has something. You can come and address that.
So I'm Hal Ferris. Nice to meet you all. One of the processes why this has taken so long is any development project to go forward, typically you have to first control the land, know that you can own or get access to land before you can build anything on it. And the second is you have to know that you can finance it, you can afford to build it, and what's different about affordable housing is that you have to secure that funding that allows that lower level of affordability first, where a market rate development would be able to put these things together and then secure their funding later just before they're ready to start because they know that it's kind of generally available in the market, the people that finance it. So that's why we've spent 1.5 years just getting to where we are because one, we had to get agreements with CenturyLink, which is not really motivated to move. They like where they are, but if they get a new place and it is in a good location they like, they're willing to go. So it took a long time to get them on board. And second, the TOD funding application, you know, the opportunity to apply for it didn't just got put out last summer, and the Housing Authority submitted the application in September, and the award wasn't made until December. So we didn't really know whether we had a project possible until then. So we normally would have gone out in front and had public open houses and involved the community of what was going to be in there and what it was going to look like much earlier, but we had to go through this long protracted process to both know that we could secure the financing, and second, we could control the land to be able to build it. So now, after a year and a half, we're kind of ready to do what you normally would like to do. So that's, to answer your question, is the development agreement will have, it will have a high level of specificity, but it has to have some flexibility because we don't have all the design done at that point in time. So we will put forth what is our concept design and how many units, which right now are those numbers that you have in front of that. You actually have a design behind that. But as we really try to put all the pieces into the puzzle to see how it's fit, we may have to move the numbers around a little bit, but it'll be pretty close to that. But we would have to come back, the council and the city may say, we want a project that looks substantially like this. And then we have to come back to them and say, this, after we've done all this is what it looks like, if it deviates from that. And they would have to say yes. And if it was if we came in at whatever, you know, a lot less, they'd say, no, that doesn't work for us. So, you know, we have an ongoing process. But they have to have confidence in us, and we have to have confidence in, you know, all of the other parties to know that we can move forward, because we have to spend a lot of money in design and other things to get to a point where we really know we can start work.
Okay, thank you. Just so that I'm clear, is part of it then, how much is part of the rate or the ratio of affordability then dependent on the funding that you were talking about, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we raised the $10 million from the county, promising them 155 units, which are the 60 and 40% units you see up there on the chart. And so if we vary from that, we would have to go back to the county, and it may cost us some money if we go below. We're able to produce more units with their money if it's possible, although I think for the amount of money we're getting, 155 is likely going to be around where we end up for those units.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question here. One, approximately how many stories are we looking at? Because the picture looked like it was 2, so I can't imagine this
I mean,
number.
stories?
Yeah, stories.
We have 5 levels of housing above 1 level of commercial, and then a level of underground parking below that. So it's, from the street, it will look like 6-story building.
Okay. And then I'm looking here on line item 2, it says 175 units, yada, yada, at 30 to 80%, and I'm looking here, and the minimum is 40%. So is the 30?
Are you moving forward? I'm sorry. Is on this slide or a previous one?
No, on the handout,
Oh, okay.
line item 2, it says 175 units of affordable rental residential units serving individuals, families from 30 to 80%. So he was saying going below that. I assume that's a typo?
From the website, so her information's probably newer than the website.
I think that's actually, so 30 to 40 is the lowest that we'll serve. That's where the 30 comes from. It's kind of the funding, sorry. The TOD funding we got from the county is only available to pay for housing that targets people from 30% to 80%. In our case, we only are using it for 30 to 60% units. So in order to serve people at 30, we target at 40. So it's not, it's the same as, I mean, we will have people as low as 30, but probably not below that.
Okay. Now, if you raise the income affordability level to, say, something 50, would you actually be able to build more units?
So all of our 40% units will have project-based Section 8. So they'll actually generate a higher rent with the Section 8 than a 50% unit would. So no, we wouldn't. That's what, it's the Section 8s that enable us to have the deeper income targeting.
All right, thank you.
May I ask what your parking ratio is planning to be?
Yeah, the city allows, if we're close to a transit center, which we're really close, generally we can be at 0.8 stalls per unit and possibly, I think, 0.6 for studios. But right now, we overall targeted 0.8 stalls per unit. So that's our current ratio right now. And we'd like to have a little more parking than that, but we have to see. We can't, we're, as you know, right on top of the water table. So we can't go down any more than we are. And we can't go any wider than we are because we're filling up the plate. So we basically are trying to just squeeze as much as we can in within those physical limits.
So these are all apartments, right?
These are all apartments.
And the money generated from the apartments will pay off everything you borrowed on it, right?
I hope so, yeah.
If there is money left over, I'm assuming the best and the most wonderful thing, it will come to a point where it's paid off. Where does the extra money go? Does it go to fund other projects?
So this is not this is money, the $10 million that the Housing Authority was awarded came from King County. They also received an award of $2 million from Arch, and that is used to buy down the affordability for these units. And those units are intended to be long-term affordable, not 10 years or 20 years, but 50 years. And as long as the building lasts there, that's how long it will be. The rest of they also are borrowing money that is supported by the income for the project that goes to pay off the bonds and the debt the Housing Authority has. And so within that, what we've talked about there is within the 155 units that are really targeted to lower affordability. The rest of the project is done with 20% of the units at 80% of area median income. So we've got 40, 60, and then 80% of area median income, and the rest are at market rate. The city is not providing any money or any subsidy to that. That's private debt and private equity. And so that will take 40 years to pay off the debt for that project and provide a return to the investors that are investing in that money. So there isn't money left over that gets distributed.
Who manages it?
We will hire a property manager that will manage the property.
I think one other piece to kind of keep aware is that these buildings oftentimes may not have reserve funds set aside and may have to do some other fundraising for long-term,
Right.
40 years out to keep it going.
Right. So Dan can speak to that because that's how they.
So for our 155 units, so 155 of these are King County Housing Authority units, we will also be seeking low-income housing tax credits, which will actually be the largest source of financing in this deal. And that has a 15-year compliance period, which means we'll be partners with an investor, likely a national bank or an insurance company for those 15 years. We recently got out of a partnership of a similar project that we completed about 18 years ago called the Village at Overlake Station in Redmond, which so when we got the investor out, we still had the underlying debt and we're paying that down, and we're because our rents have been controlled by what the median income is over time, we don't have a whole lot of cash flow on that property even now that the investor's gone. So we're finding that we're needing that just to make capital improvements, and we may even in a few years need to re-syndicate that just to do some upgrades to the property. So that's kind of how affordable, when you have like lower income rents, there usually isn't. I mean, we're in it. We do our housing forever, so it will likely be at serving these same income groups 50 years from now, and so we will be plowing any kind of cash flow we get into just keeping them, keeping the units going.
So we've just spent a long time developing a lot of building requirements basically for the central area. Do you have to abide by any of those, or is your understanding that you are special?
Yeah, we are special. Yes, the design guidelines that are prescriptive apply to this project. So we have to come in and look at those. There are some that we have, either we don't feel are clear or haven't been tested. So we will be looking at that and coming back to the city with those that we feel need some, greater review or looking at. So, and I've identified a few of those that don't work for mixed-use housing, wood frame construction. So those will be to be determined. So, and I think the council, when they passed it, they identified the period of time in which they want to have those tested to find out if there needs to be any updates so that they can then incorporate those into a plan that will kind of stand the test of time.
I'll just say that that discussion will also happen during the development agreement proceedings, so it won't just be something that happens, in my office, right? So we'll be presenting it to council, or in your office.
Not my office.
I wanted to say something about the project that's really unique. And first of all, this is one project. There is because of the tax credits, we end up having kind of what looks like one of the buildings on top of the parking will be owned by the housing authority, and it's required to do that way because of the tax credits, and then our entity will own it, the other one. But what's really unique about it is we want this to act as one community. And we want the residents of this whole project to feel like they're part of a single community. So we're going to have shared amenities. So instead of having 2 fitness rooms, we're going to have one larger one that is shared by all the residents. We're going to have one front door and one package room and a community kitchen. So the amenities, instead of having those split and creating 2 separate communities, we want this to feel like one. So we want the buildings to look the same. We want a lot of the elements to be the same, so that you don't have the separation that might otherwise occur typically with affordable housing compared to a market rate project. And that has never been done in our area, Puget Sound and the state of Washington. It's rarely done in the country. So it's something we're really trying to set, a different kind of project, a different kind of community that really integrates all of the people together without having the, more of a separation.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And do you have anything, we have to move on to?
Yes. So I'll just mention, the Opportunity Center. So this is a term I used before. Part of when we did the RFP, we said these are the things that we're looking at wanting to have be part of the development. So making sure there's affordable housing. We also are requiring what's a quarter-acre public plaza. So it's a plaza that will be owned and maintained by the developers, but it is open to the public. And then there was a 10,000 square foot commercial space called the Opportunity Center. And our idea, again, was to expand human services that are available to the community. So I just want to give you a quick update. This is still, again, not anywhere near complete, but we did an RFP to nonprofits at the end of 2017. The Office of Sustainability actually is leading this effort based on the community needs assessment that was completed last year. I'm not sure if you guys were aware of that work. And our intent is to identify and move forward with a letter of interest or intent with nonprofits by mid-year. So that could be medical, it could be employment services, it could be additional counseling services. But this is, again, another public benefit that's going to come out of the project and help our nonprofit community and our broader community. So it's not just services for who's living at the project, but for people throughout the community. And then we talked a little bit about the funding, so it just gives you a quick synopsis of, it's a if anybody does development, it's really complicated. When you add affordable housing, it's even more complicated. And this is in the order of magnitude. So I know that there's a lot of people at the city who feel like we're investing a lot, and we are for this project, but the reality is the risk that these 2 developers are taking and the money going out and borrowing is actually the heavy load of how to make this project happen. Our city waive fees are about $2 to $3 million. Our arch contribution as a thing is about $2 million, and our MFTE, and I'll show you some more details of that, kind of still add up to be less than all these resources individually. So. And so the MFTE, a pilot project, MFTE, multifamily tax exemption, this is a tool that many other cities in the state use that actually, we're actually doing a little differently. So the private developer gets the opportunity to have 12 years of no property taxes on the residential piece of the property. So the land still gets taxed property tax, the commercial space still gets taxed property tax, but the residential piece. In exchange for that, they have to offer affordable housing. So this is what we're, as far as what's been passed for the pilot project. So they're going to do 60% and 80% AMI units. We added a little addition on, so in some places, it's just for the 12 years that you have to provide this affordable housing, but we are requiring it for the life of the project. So after the 12 years, when they have to start paying property tax on the full building, that those units will still remain affordable. Okay, so that's something that we think is a great addition to the community. And people think, oh my gosh, we're giving away a lot of money of our tax dollars. The reality is right now, the first column is what currently the city and other jurisdictions receive. So that property is currently paying into property taxes throughout the whole county, $43,000 a year. The city receives $5,000, just under $5,000. Does that make sense in general? Because there's multiple. So then I mentioned during this property tax exemption, the commercial spaces have to pay property tax, the land has to pay property taxes. We anticipate that the city's portion of that property taxes for those 12 years will be over $8,000. So we're actually getting more because the property's worth more. There's been investment. There's no commercial. The commercial pieces that are there are also worth more than what's currently there. And then once the exemption ends, which is the third column, that is the anticipated, again, these are in 2017, $16, and we can't guarantee what the assessment rates are going to, or assessments are going to be, but looking at numbers today to give you a quick idea, the city itself would then receive each year $87,000 in property taxes from this property. So it is not we're not going to be losing, like currently we're receiving $100,000 from this property. We're not. We're receiving less than 5. We're actually anticipating to receive more property taxes because the improvements that are being made, the value of the whole parcel will be going up, and that balances out. Now, there is an opportunity cost of not receiving that for the 12 years, but again, having the opportunity to get the affordable housing is where the value comes in.
So question, we're paying out $4 million, and in 13 years, we're going to get $87,000 back.
We're not paying, this is private property. What that is valued at, that current parcel, is $4 million. That's CenturyLink. It's not city.
Okay. So what is...
Oh, you're saying $4 million from before the...
What is the impact to the city's finances?
We'll receive more when they are done with the project, and we'll receive even more after the project exemption goes away.
Right.
Jen, if I may, there's one benefit you're not factoring in, and that is that when a development of this nature happens, it raises the property values of all the properties around it, and they end up paying more taxes. So you're not factoring that into your...
This is a very simple, quick analysis, but thank you, yes. I mean, it changes the whole tax base, so.
So what is it, when do you think we'd break even? That's what I'm asking. What's the financial impact?
We break even as a city?
Yes.
We get 176 units of affordable housing, so how do you value that, I guess? We get a public park, we have a plaza that's available to the park, we get 10,000 square feet of, so you have to measure all those things. So I think we get a project we want in the central Issaquah area. I think all those things, I mean, it's hard to quantify having a truck parking facility next to a transit center being replaced, now with affordable housing, people living in an urban core, all those things. So
I hear all that, but my question is financially, just looking at the finances. So we're paying out X number of dollars.
So you're not paying out anything.
No, we're not paying out.
You're not putting $1 in.
Wow, okay.
We are waiving fees, which
less tax.
we're waiving fees,
Not otherwise collect.
which we do for any affordable housing project. We are not collecting, and then we're collecting more property tax.
Okay, I heard $4 million, and I thought that's what we're paying into this project.
No.
Okay.
No. And then, so really quickly, we have two MOUs, because it's a complex project. So there's the actually moving CenturyLink off of their site and onto city-owned parcel currently, and then the actual building of the TOD site. So there are two MOUs, again, non-binding, that currently exist. They will be the basis for moving forward for the development agreements, and that will happen in the next 2 quarters. And so that will be something, again, that will be in front of council, in front of Land and Shore Committee, so we'll encourage you to kind of keep up on that. So community meeting, again, we're anticipating, we are shooting for the end of February. We'll look at 2 of the items that we'll be looking at. It's not only, but we'll present some more, some general information to the community, but also talk about the plaza and the mid-block crossing, which is basically going to connect the transit center. So as you know, in the Central Issaquah area, they're talking about smaller blocks, so they're more walkable. So that's what this project does, is taking that larger parcel and actually creating mid-block crossings so that people can walk through without having to go around the whole block. The development agreement is moving forward, and then the developers will this year, next, and start continuing design and permitting, and then start construction. So it's a general overview. Again, there's lots of details that go into this, but we hope that helps better understand the overall project.
Has anything been discussed about, I know parking is a constraint, obviously, being able to use the parking garage that's right next door for kind of overnight parking or that kind of thing when it's at its lowest volume for transit? Is there any kind of synergy there?
Yeah, so actually we are looking, we're going to have a conversation with Sound Transit. The transit center during the day, as you know, is full. So, but we do own the overflow parking that's shared parking across the street. So we're actually looking at how we can better utilize that, making sure that if there is additional needs during the day, that can be met there. But definitely, I think the advantage is, I'm not sure if overnight parking is currently allowed in transit center. I think were you the person who mentioned that it wasn't? Yeah, usually it's not allowed overnight, but that's something we actually have a call into the Sound Transit folks. And actually we met with them early on because they actually, the road that's in between the site and the transit center is their private road. And so kind of making sure they're aware, kind of what's going on. So we'll definitely have those conversations and see if we can better utilize that, so.
So it sounds like a wonderful addition to the city, and good luck. And so thank you. So we're going to move right along with Keith.
He's asleep.
And I think you have some dates to discuss.
Good evening, Planning Policy Commission. Next on our agenda, I went deep on the design on this one. I've got some extra hard copies. Does anybody want a hard copy? Not of that. Of this?
I think we have.
Yeah. All right. So we got. I'm taking us all back to December, and we kind of dialed up an earlier draft of this to the council committee, and the general consensus was send it back to Planning Policy Commission and the task force and the public, get some more input, and then bring it back. And the hope was we'd be bringing it back by, by sometime soon, and getting it through the council by April. That was the goal. And I heard somebody at the table say, we do that in 2 meetings. I'm not sure who that was, but that was somebody at the table. So all I'm doing is kind of a reality check. And, it seems like we just started 2018, but we're already, you are here. So it's the 25th. What we heard earlier from the park director was we've kind of dialed up a couple meetings in February to talk about the green necklace and the green network and the green thing. And on the first, which I was going to put on here and apparently got distracted, we're redoing small cell. So you guys have a meeting the 1st, the 8th, the 22nd, and right now we tentatively had scheduled the 28th, the end of the month, for wrapping up the visions, so we could move on with some other things. I'm trying to kind of gauge the progress we've made so far. We're still in chapter 1, and knowing that we haven't even started talking about the neighborhoods yet. And I'm worried that we're not going to get to the place we want to be by the end of February. And so I'm looking for you guys to help me problem solve our progress to this point. And, you know, if I'm here every night anyway, but I don't know that you guys want to be here every night. So either one, we need a lot more meetings, or two, we need to maybe move things along via homework in between the meetings. I think, you know, I know that some feel like the green necklace, getting resolved on the green necklace is super important. I think it is. But I'm trying to figure out how we get to a goal line, and whether that goal line's in February or, you know, are we spilling into March? You know, if anybody's saying we're spilling into April, I'm going to say I think we need to be done before then. So this is, before we kind of dive head first into this tonight, I just kind of wanted to talk about schedule and process. And, you know, I don't want anybody thinking we rush this, because that's not what I'm trying to do here, but I'm also trying to get us to move a little bit more efficiently. You had one of your commission members, and I won't mention names, sent an email saying that he was discouraged and felt like we were down to wordsmithing, and that we'll never get consensus on wordsmithing because, you know, as much as we all have our favorite words, we all don't have the same favorite words. And so, you know, I want us to stay at a level where we're actually moving the needle. And if we get to the point where we're just wordsmithing, email me. I'm happy to go through everybody's words. Connie knows this. I picked maybe 1 out of 4 of hers, maybe. So, you know, but it's an easier way to do it. I mean, if you guys trust that we can get down to the actual picking of words. Now, there's some things that you guys, that need to ring true.
Just looking at the schedule, and I knew what was coming, and so that's why I said to the park board that we would have a 4-hour meeting. I mean, I really think that we can do the network, the green network, in one meeting if we have some information ahead of time. It's not going to be complete. It's always going to be changed, but at least it'll give us some sense better than the circles that we had before. I'm more interested in going through this tonight and then at least taking the 22nd or someday to go back and look at what we've committed to in the way of design standards and whatever, and go over it quickly so that we know that it works in the vision. Because when you do that first and then you get into the vision, maybe it doesn't connect. Or maybe with some other input, we can have some better ideas. Maybe we did it wrong, maybe. Because this is, you know, this is going to be it. And we have to make sure that we're right along the line. So does anybody have any other comments? Does that work for anybody?
My only other comment is it would be great to, I think it could be effective to break it off kind of in smaller pieces, dedicated each meeting, so we all come in, we know what our goal is to talk about. Okay, we're going to get through this topic, and then at the end, we set a goal for being done on that date, and we have a review period, and we say yay or nay. to all those
Right,
components that
that'll
we've
come-
worked towards.
That'll come, it all depends on how long it takes us to do what we're going to do. But tonight,
Right.
we are only going to look at these 4 issues. And what I want to do is go through them very quickly, not necessarily wordsmithing, but to make sure that what it implies is not causing trouble for future development for what we actually want. So, I'd just like to go through them. I'm a retired teacher, and when I look at this, it all starts differently, and I have a hard time reading it, but the city can do the wordsmithing on that. But that's all we're going to do tonight, and I think that's going to take us a while to get through that. So what I want Keith to do, I know he gave us a little bit of a input of where it started and how we got to where we are, but we made some commitments the last meeting of what we wanted to do, how we wanted it designed, and you were going to bring back to us exactly what we decided on, and I don't see that. So I would like to see that, you did a little bit here, but I think we had made some other comments and restriction on the beginning of what we wanted to see. But right now, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, you're
I just want to go
suggesting I didn't do what you asked me to do.
Start doing this tonight. So, Carrie.
Can I clarify? I'm used to visions being aspirational, things that you work toward, but I've also heard that there are certain people that want to try to codify the visions. That makes a huge difference for me in terms of the level of detail that I would be diving into. If they're truly aspirational, then this should be a much easier, simpler exercise. But if there's going to be code that's going to follow up to dictate the vision and only the vision and then not allow a progress toward the vision, that is a whole nother deal. And that will take a lot of meetings in my book. But
That's not what we're going to do tonight.
good.
We are, and I agree, it should be aspirational. And sometimes we put too much into the aspirational part of it, so I want to be careful when you go through it. So I know that we have a piece of paper here where it starts, and there is the first paragraph. I'm not sure why it's there. Why are we looking at this particular one?
So this part here at the beginning was to help you guys. This is the directions. So what I wanted you guys to understand, because I think you guys, and I'm not going to be critical, but I think you guys keep forgetting there's a whole plan that this piece that we're talking about, one little chapter, slides into a whole other plan, and you guys kept trying to pull the whole rest of the plan into this chapter and so what I gave you for note number 1 is this is just pages 15 through 22. The rest of the plan is staying the way it is, and that was a reminder for you guys to keep you focused. Note number 2, following adoption of the visions, we will clean up the rest of the plan. So for example, if we decide it's no longer the green necklace, but the green slime, I don't know, it's green something else, we'll have to go back through the plan and actually change that nomenclature to make it consistent. We will do that. We don't need to worry about that through this exercise. And then the third thing, and this was Vicki asked for this to be kind of brought back forward, so I am listening to you, I think, that we had a section of code revision that was doing what Carrie alluded to earlier, because I actually think you guys are, the direction from both this group and from Land and Shore was the visions are too loose, we're not getting what we want, they need to be they need to be more predictable. And so what this section of code does, and so this section of code, 11C, is already in the IMC, Chapter 1819A, which is Central Issaquah. And we basically added some language at the end of this section that says, and shall comply with the developer obligations identified then that needs to change into neighborhood visions. All right, so that is the tool that from a legal standpoint would allow us to say, so when we get down to the neighborhood level and we talk about East Lake neighborhood and it says, as a developer, you shall do this, we now, as staff, even though it's in the visions and not in code, we can say because of this, this draws that vision into code and says, you have to do that. It's in the visions, you have to do it.
But shouldn't there be some ability to have a developer work around and strive to comply, but not shall comply? It's kind of, for me, and they have to, according to that sentence, they have to do everything that is in there. They can't.
Yes. So if it says, if your project is, and this just happened, we had a meeting, even though we're still in a moratorium, we have meetings that are informational with a property owner whose property was adjacent to a creek. And he was suggesting a parking lot next to the creek. And we said, okay, it's likely, depending on what comes out of all this, that's not something you're going to be able to do. Because what it says in the neighborhoods is you shall have a positive relationship to the creek. I'm making up words because we're not there and I don't want to bring it up. So positive relationship to the creek, or some words like that, and the words are important and we'll get down to the words, but but a parking lot or the back of a building is not a positive relationship to a natural open space amenity. And so having a positive relationship to a natural open space amenity doesn't say you have to have your front door on it. Maybe you have a section of the building has a patio that opens up to it. Maybe there's a trail that you put from your project along the edge of it. There's probably a number of different ways. So this is more like a guideline, and I don't want to use that word because I don't know that everybody understands how they're used. But it's like it's a guideline, but it's a performance measure that you have to meet, not that you shall try to meet, that you have to meet, but there's maybe a number of different ways that you can get there, right? It doesn't say you have to do X. It says you have to meet the intent of doing X. And maybe there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different ways that you can achieve that. So it makes it predictable in how you treat your property, but there's different ways that you can satisfy that. So it does give some flexibility, but it's not to the point where it says, the city, you shall try, or some of those words were in the previous version, and that's what I heard y'all didn't want. You wanted it to be more predictable. You wanted it to be, I want to know what that's going to look like when it gets built. Well, that's prescriptive, that's satisfying performance measures. I think it's very different than just, we want this to look like this. So, sorry, that was a lot of words.
Kathy, Carrie, either one.
So I think this gets back to Carrie's point, though, because this is almost like codifying it anyway. And our concern is that the visions are too prescriptive in nature, and it's actually going to hurt business development in the future. And again, this might get back to all the wordsmithing that's been going on, but I think there should be a little room for creativeness in the process so that Issaquah could continue to have a unique look and feel to it that we all enjoy.
Okay. Let's,
It sounds like that's what Keith said.
Let's take a specific example because I think that will maybe help the conversation. And sorry, I have to load another document because the one I have doesn't have it. I'm going to go with version 99. Just kidding.
So,
Oh, actually, no, that's not the right one. That's a problem one. Okay, no.
if I just use the example that you had of well, now I can't remember, the good relationship with the nature. I think that it's very different than most code. I think if we really don't want a parking lot right on the creek, then maybe that needs to be specified in code language. But to say positive relationship, I think that that's so subjective, and there are a lot of very subjective words. Celebrate, for example, where I think that it's so subjective that it's very unlike code. I think it could be very confusing to people that are developers, or you could interpret it as, well, the parking lot is a positive relationship. It's a use of the space. I mean, there's so much subjectivity in so much of this, and I think that's okay to be aspirational and to be a vision, but it doesn't seem, so it's making it prescriptive in terms of codifying it, but then the actual words are leaving so much leeway that I don't think it would be very informative for a developer.
We haven't spent any time on these words since December. So I need to be clear, because that comment, and I'm not going to be cranky, but I'll be a little bit cranky. So that comment about celebrate mountains to sound was identified before, and I agreed with it in December, and I'm going to agree with it now. It needs to be changed. So don't use it as an example, right? So go to 1.1, provide parks and trails that create social opportunities. Is that clear or is that ambiguous? It's clear. I think it's clear, and I can use that with a developer to say, okay, how are you satisfying 1.1, right? And they're going to say, okay, I've got a trail that leads from my open space through my project to the street. Mm-hmm. Great. Does it say how wide it is? Does it say where it goes? No, but it tells you what we want to have happen, all right? And so if we can achieve that level of clarity with each one of these, I think, so in my world, that's called a design guideline. It's a performance measure that you need to meet, but there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. It doesn't say where on your property it is. It doesn't say how big it is. That's more of a standard. This is more of a performance expectation that we have on the property, and there's different ways to get there. So if we can get to a point, and we're still stuck on chapter 1, we haven't even gotten into the neighborhoods yet. If we can get to the point where we're actually working on clarifying some of the intent of these, like you may say, Keith, I don't understand 2.2, celebrate, does that mean have a party? What does that mean, right? And if we get to the point where we can actually clean that up and make that so everybody in this room understands what that means, I think that's what we want to do. And that keeps me from having to do a bunch of code amendments later to then turn this into code, because I'd rather not do that. That seems like a whole lot of work that I'm going to have to hire somebody to do because I don't have anybody to do it. So if we stay on track of basically turning this into a set of design guidelines for each neighborhood, I think that's a great outcome. I think that's consistent with how other cities do things. We have design guidelines in the villages, and I think that it would keep us from having to adopt a bunch more code. But it has to be clear. And this is not clear. I will be the first one to say, some of this is clear and some of this is not clear. And we haven't even gone back in based on some of the revisions to the first piece of this, which was kind of changing around the guiding principles, where this might get a whole lot better. I just haven't put any time in yet because we haven't gotten past step 1.
Okay, so this was all based on the word shall. If we're comfortable with the word shall, we can move on and get into what we're actually going to talk about tonight. You like shall?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so the
I
next
think it changes, though, the whole context of the rest of the document if we have it be actually code or not, right? So this is then that this all will be code. All of the developer sections will be code.
Yeah, I mean, and it will be equivalent to code in that it will be something that you as a developer will need to comply with. As opposed to, I mean, so I'm just going to go ahead and let's take us backwards, okay? Because sometimes it's great to go backwards and say, yeah, no, we don't want that. So with Atlas, you know, where that vision was for mixed use, you know, we had a vision for we want this area to be, we want Gilman to be mixed use. Their comment was when asked, why didn't you put retail on the ground floor? If you wanted it, you should have made us do that. Okay, and so that's, I think, what we're responding to. So the pendulum's swinging the other direction, and we're being much more heavy-handed because I think the community and the council didn't like the results from the light hand. So that's my take, and so maybe we're having this conversation because we all need refocusing on clarity of why we're doing what we're doing, but I think the expectation was we want it more predictable, we want the developers to build what the community actually expects to get in these locations.
I think I'd just say, I think generally you're right. I like the guidelines piece and flexibility to figure out different ways to get there, because whenever you have a development project, usually the first time out, you're always over budget, and you're trying to figure out, the gives and the takes and what's more important for this, and you can't do it all. You have to make choices in order to make things work. And so if we mandate too much, without having economic data for what it's costing for the things that you're asking for. I mean, environmental stuff, forget that, but building finishes, types, amenities, structured parking, if you don't know what the economic equation of that is, you'll get to a point where you'll require all this stuff and nobody can meet the requirement because the land values here aren't high enough to justify the rents that you would need to get to build the building. And then nothing happens.
So I think my concern is that it's hard for me, I think, to see because the version we have right now has a lot of developer obligations. I realize that they will be changed over time as we go through the discussions. But right now, and I also use not a good example, but I think that there are a lot of words that could be interpreted a lot of ways, and I think it could, my interpretation is that it could be confusing for developers that are used to seeing code and then having this all be read as code, but so does every developer have to do everything in the list if they're in that neighborhood? And it seems like, my concern is that it seems like there's a long way between what we have now and that, but there isn't a long way from what we have now and it being a vision.
So I actually was trying to do what John suggested earlier, which was, let's make bite-sized pieces of this thing, because it's the whole thing is too much to try and comprehend at once. And I think, Vicki, you're going into that end piece and looking at it and going, okay, if I don't like the end piece, then this piece isn't working for me because I'm looking at how it plays out, and I don't like how it plays out, but the problem is we haven't gone in and done anything with the neighborhoods yet because I'm trying to get you guys past this first intro part. And so all I'm saying is, if you can have faith and say that we can fix the back part, because we haven't even started yet, can you read this part with that in mind, that if the back part's clear, I can read this part and will it work for you? That's, I think, what I'm asking. And if you say no, you think we're off track, then I think we need to have a bigger conversation with the group and see if everybody else thinks we're off track too.
No, it's okay. Thanks.
Can I just give my perspective of what I think we're trying to do? Because I've sat and watched these things go through with Mel and then be built. And so I perceive this as creating a lens by which staff and to some extent the community can work with the developers to better gain what we envision. It's not like the developers alone read everything and say, wow, we have to do this and this and this. They sit down with staff, but staff has only been going to code. They haven't been going and looking at the visions and telling the developers, well, we're trying to create these visions, and so you have to do it this way. That's been missing. And so what I'm hoping is this becomes the tool where every developer who comes in, they look at the neighborhood and staff says, hey, this is what's supposed to be in that neighborhood, so let's see how we can succeed in that and make it great, and everybody's going the same direction instead of duking it out, and then when they build it, we hate it. So I don't know if that helps or not, because I don't think any of you have been through the development pathway to understand how the tool might be used. So that might be one question is, who's going to use it and how? Maybe that helps.
And I had heard that this was a tool that the Development Commission and staff need to be able to use to interface with a developer and say, this is what we've agreed to, and that what they had before, there were things that, yeah, they didn't like, but it wasn't strong enough, or it was either too specific or not specific enough, that there was no, yeah, you're right, you had to kind of concede things to the developer and say, you're right, it's not there, we don't have a leg to stand on, we have to let it go through, right? So our goal here is, correct me if I'm wrong, is to enhance this tool so that it does what we've always wanted it to do.
If I can jump in, from my experience with the Development Commission, the plan, it's sort of like the standards gave us the box. And it said you can build this box, this height, this dimension, this coverage, and so forth. Here's the box you could build. We didn't really have design guidelines that could say, here's really what that box needs to include or look like and so forth. The design guidelines, I think, are giving us that tool to say, you can now mold that box and say, here's the things the box has to have in it. Then I think the idea with this, with the shall comply, then gives us a tool for a bigger picture to say, okay, there's the box, here's what we think it should look like, and here's the other things we want to have happen in this neighborhood that you should be part of. Maybe not necessarily everything, but at least it gives us that tool to work with the developers on this project. So I think it's a good idea. I think it works to say shall, and that flexibility I think we can work with.
Okay. So the next couple pages are things that I think we're aware of. I don't think we have to go into that. And so I'd like to make one comment on page 5.
Yes.
Where it is happening. Could we be more creative?
So
Not
Keith,
knowing
that's the Central Issaquah vision, which is what we were supposed to do homework for, which we sent you stuff in.
I have that. She asked me to do it last. So we can do that whenever you want to.
The Central Issaquah vision was the thing we had the homework for.
Right. We're gonna do the vision. This isn't the vision, though. This is, I mean, the vision is gonna be.
That is the vision, the Central Issaquah vision.
Vision statement.
That is the vision. So that's one of 6 visions we can talk about before the night's over. Do you want to do it last, or you want to do it now?
I would prefer doing it last so that we could get through some of the.
Visions can be kind of a sinkhole.
Agreed.
For lack of better terminology.
Okay, so I like the fact that there's pictures.
Pictures are great. The one I passed out doesn't have pictures. My apologies. I lost Kristen's picture.
We have pictures.
You got pictures?
We have pictures.
Sweet.
Yep.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'm super excited about that.
So the first one is.
Is it on the website? Is it on the agenda?
So the first one is livable.
I would say on this one, you're missing something about the community staying safe. It feels safe right now, and that's a really important part of livability that isn't mentioned in this document.
So can I ask, as a first step back, how do we feel about this layout versus where it was before? Do we feel like this is moving in the right direction or not?
It is for me.
I think so, absolutely. It would be good to provide positive feedback occasionally.
Do you notice he stopped breathing when you asked that question? No, the pictures, the colors, it's more professional. I like safety. I don't know if you guys have any.
I also like how it links to the other policy chapters. So if anybody goes back to the Central Issaquah plan as a whole, there's this whole section at the end that talks about the policies that are around these specific areas like urban community. And so linking those with the letters there and saying this applies to this policy, I think is a good connective point.
So going up to the orange beginning, do you want to add safety in there? Is that
I just put it in a bullet. So.
in the bullet? Okay. So I want to go through these really quick. I want to go through each one of them. Whether they stay, whether they go, if they need some wordsmithing, are there words that cause you consternation? So the first.
Can I add one thing first? No?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So had some conversations about, so we talked about description, definition, something for each of these. And so, where it ended up is it's a bunch of words. It's not a sentence. It's not, because as soon as you start turning it into sentences, then it needs to want to flow. And this for me was a better way to describe these. It's kind of like a little Wordle to go with it. So if you guys
Wordles?
Word cloud.
Word cloud, yeah. So if you guys are okay with that, that's a construct piece. I wanted to make sure you were jiving. All right, now I'm ready for any edits.
Basically blend the new with the existing.
We do thumbs up, thumbs down, and then if there's any thumbs down commentary, just to get us through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just say the ones you don't
From
want.
now on?
Well, you're talking about the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Thumbs up?
Do I need to count?
Yes.
doing
No,
I
just,
guess
Okay, so for the downs, that was the two of you. Why?
For me, it's I get the idea, and
Okay.
it's more about harmonizing than seamlessly blending. As a developer, if I have to seamlessly blend, does that mean I'm dictated by the materials that are currently existing in the neighborhood? Do I
Yeah.
have to somehow work with the existing size of the product?
Okay.
You get it.
Awesome. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I don't know if
Well said.
existing is the right word so much as, well, I guess here it's not historic, but there's certain properties that certainly are existing and do fit, and some that's existing and doesn't fit. So
Okay.
we want to integrate seamlessly with the things that we don't want to keep. I don't know.
Good point.
For under livable, seamlessly blend doesn't even belong under livable.
I certainly wouldn't put it as the first thing in the list.
It has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so were you with down? I didn't see you even vote there.
Now, yes.
You were down, okay.
Say scratch it.
So there were probably more votes to like than scratch. So why, Ron? So I like Carrie's suggestion for an edit. So harmonize over seamlessly blend. So part of it is, if it's livable, so let's say that you have your single-story bungalow and next to you is constructed a 10-story ultra-modern apartment building. Is that still livable for you, or have things somewhat changed?
That's not, I look at livable as a verb.
How about integrate?
As a verb.
How about
That's more
integrate?
structured, so that's more about the development, what it looks like. But the livable side is, you're talking about vibrant neighborhoods. So vibrant, accessibility, sustainable, diverse. Doesn't say anything about structures.
Well, it's also just your living situation. Is this a place that you still feel is home and all of that? So I think Keith's example was a good one. And I think if we do harmonize.
Or integrate? Does integrate work? I don't know.
Integrate appears as a top bullet in two of the other ones, so.
Yeah, and it's almost negative. It's like adapt to those, not bring it forward.
I would be in favor of removing it because architectural fit is in another one, is in distinctive, I believe, and I think that it's kind of covered in other ways, the sentiment, but that's my.
Okay, so let's show.
Hard time looking in both directions.
Yeah, so let's show quick hands or thumbs up for taking it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Taking it out.
Taking it out.
All right, we're taking it out. Next. I'm good with shortening.
Diversity of housing, supporting an inclusive city with affordable, high-quality, and sustainable housing stock.
I'd shorten that, just diversity of housing, supporting an inclusive city. 'Cause that kind of says it all.
Okay?
I
like high quality.
Affordable. Oh.
Both of those.
Think between this bullet and the fourth bullet.
They're duplicate.
Are they?
Yeah, we could kind of combine those somehow.
The old fourth bullet? Sorry, I'm counting and I'm like, wait, what? That's about jobs.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
That's true.
All right, I'll look to, we'll look to blend those two together into one.
There we go.
Yeah. Yep.
Or harmonize them together. All right?
Great.
Okay, provide housing to meet the city's growth needs for the next 20 years.
Won't the market take care of that?
Yeah.
And what growth needs? Is that
So the plan has growth numbers in it.
declaring that?
And so,
Implied.
I mean,
I was going to say, I would, instead of 20 years, I would put it 50, or whatever the target goes through.
so this isn't obviously aspirational. This is nuts and boltsy. I don't know. I mean, I'm okay taking this one out if you guys want this one out. All right, I'm seeing nods. I'm not going to ask for a vote. All right.
The flip side of that, I think would be that we do need to provide housing, and this seems like the place that we want to provide it, right?
So yeah, but this gets back to, that's part of the plan.
Yeah.
And we're in the visions.
This is
And
the
let's
vision.
leave that out and leave it in the plan.
Yep.
It's still in the plan, just because we're taking it out doesn't mean we're not doing it.
Okay, so
Deal.
we're combining the next one.
Yeah, so let's go down to attract, retain, and grow a diverse community workforce.
I like it.
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Promote job creation, minimize job loss, and support the growth of new and existing local businesses.
Yes.
I would be a little careful with the minimized job loss piece,
Well-
because you'd only have a certain amount of control over that. It's more about attracting the new jobs and evolving the one, because there will be some jobs that are,
So,
what does this mean?
okay, so now we get to go to the end. And so in two of the neighborhoods, so in, right now in Pickering and Gilman, we're saying minimize job loss. So if you're going to take out, so this was part of the angst over Atlas, is there were jobs there and they went away. And if we don't have something about minimizing job loss, you know, the concern that I've heard from a number of people is we could end up with all straight apartments going in, and this
Yeah.
is supposed to be our
So
job.
if we're looking at
this is supposed to be our job center.
Yep.
Residential comes before the jobs come, and if you don't have enough critical mass of that, you're not going to be able to attract the jobs. And there's a lot of jobs that may not be direct that may be related to buildings. So Atlas, for example, has landscapers and janitorial and jobs that you may, you know, it's more than just the property manager sitting in the building. So, and then all the people that are in there might have someone cleaning their unit. You know, you got to be careful with this one.
The thing that we're saying, though, is we're looking to value what is existing there that may be providing jobs, rather than tearing it down and replacing it with new housing. And I think that is a vision that we have for this central area.
How about
Yes, sir.
maintain jobs?
Isn't that what minimized job loss is?
Is minimized job loss go in another?
Well, I had the question.
Visionary, don't you just want to bring in more jobs?
New jobs.
So Keith, I was actually thinking we should have almost two separate sections, add two sections, economic and leisure lifestyle. And under economic would be talking about the jobs, like target job creation whose median income would be equal to or better than the county's median income range. So that's kind
I
of
don't think we
protecting
can
and
dictate
creation.
that. to developers.
Well, and the other thing is parts of your town are going to change. So Costco's planning to add 5,000 jobs, but these people are going to need a place to live, and they may need to knock down a small business in order to build the apartments for them to live in. I mean, ultimately, they're not necessarily all going to be in the same place, but you've got to allow for that flexibility, because what are you saying, you can't knock down a building because there are, people that work there to build something new that will get you to that next level?
Well, this is a vision, this isn't code, so I think it still leads toward our goal for this area is to maintain jobs and grow new ones.
So I'm going to jump down to the section we don't like yet. Let's see what we said about jobs.
And I think the other argument is we're only at 10% of our jobs target currently.
Correct.
So
Could it not be under sustainable
30%?
and having a balance of always having some proportionate balance of housing and jobs, whether it varies? And that could be in livable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because really, that feels more like economic vitality when you're talking about livable and making sure that you have a lot of jobs.
Right.
Livable to me is more like I have a job I like.
Right.
That I can get to easily, and that's great livability. So
the jobs related to economic vitality makes a lot of sense to me. Related to land use is a little weird.
yeah, except for as a policy thing, if we're trying to get people to be able to live and work in the same town, then we need to maintain a certain balance with a variety of jobs to a variety of housing with an awesome transportation system, right? So you're trying to get this livability trifecta, but I think I'm looking at those trying to figure out if you can remove 3 and get 1 bullet point. But I feel sort of wordsmithy when I do that. So that's just my concept.
So I guess, so maybe I was being too sensitive, so I'm gonna poll you guys. So the job loss piece, so this came out of Ron's mouth, I'm gonna be specific, and it came out of Mary Lou's mouth. And I think the question is should we be concerned at all about losing jobs in Central as it redevelops? Because if so, I think we need to be specific about that. If we're going to, though, focus on, I'm going to just say job harmony because my brain's so tired. Whatever, something, good jobs, well-paying jobs. I mean, so we've got the diversity of workforce above that, right? So that's the bullet. I think everybody was fine with that. We want jobs at different spectrums. So this one was really about more growing jobs. So the bullet before was about jobs across many income levels, right? You're going to have service jobs. We'd like corporate jobs. We want jobs to match diversity of housing stock. This one was about growing jobs. We want more jobs. As your economic development director, I want more jobs in Central Issaquah. The thing is, and maybe the thing that kind of threw you guys off the track is this minimize job loss. Because if you read the rest of it, it probably would have flown through and you guys all would have given a thumbs up. So the question is do we need to actually say minimizing job loss? Is that?
So there are 2 things when we took the tour around that you mentioned that were possible areas where we've got workforce that are going to be replaced with housing.
Yeah.
One is BMC, and then the other one was up there in that East Lake area where you've got Office Park that's going to be replaced with apartments or townhomes. And so I think those are 2 key examples of areas where, because the market values housing more right now, we need to push back on that a little bit and say, no, we value our current stock of jobs and we don't want to lose those to housing.
So you can take some, so the Space Labs building's a great one. And if the market says the highest and best use for that is pure residential, you're going to take out a 3-story office building and put in just apartments. Now, maybe in the long scheme, the long game, maybe that all balances out and that's fine and we shouldn't worry about the point-by-point change in land uses. Or maybe we should. And so this is that conversation where we either put something in here about this that gives the city the ability to tell someone. So what you could then tell a particular home builder is you can go ahead and take out that 3-story office building, but instead of putting in just apartments, you have to put in ground floor non-residential space and residential above. So there's at least some jobs coming back. So this doesn't say no job loss. It says minimize. So I think it gives the city the ability to say, okay, you're going to take that out, and there's some underutilized office buildings across from the state park, which is more kind of where I'm thinking. And, and it's like, okay, somebody could come in and say, I'm going to buy those 2-story office buildings and put in apartments. Okay.
That has nothing to do with minimizing job loss, because if you're going to take away a office park that has 100 jobs, but over here you're going to create an opportunity for 200 jobs, it's a net positive. So you're not minimizing jobs, you're growing jobs. It's just you're moving them from one section to another section. So
Where does that 200 come from?
You made it up.
I made it up.
Okay.
How about ensure the job pool is maintained or something like that? So your job loss sounds like you're fired. And that's a tough one for anybody to read. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to point. But maintain the job pool or something like that.
Or do your best Donald Trump imitation.
I could. I think I did.
Yeah.
How's my hair? Sorry.
Yeah, no, we've all been doing this too long. All right. So yes.
Can you explain how minimize? So I think that support existing local business covers a lot of support the growth of existing local business. So that's existing local jobs for an existing local business. So I think it's kind of covered with that, unless I'm missing something.
Yeah,
and that I like.
If it just read promote job creation and support the growth of new and existing local business, does that work? Does that?
Okay, I'm there.
Okay,
I drew a line through it.
Yeah, that's what I took a while to get there, but that's where it should be.
Okay, fosters social interaction and community.
What about the introverts? I'm just kidding.
Moving on.
Yeah, it's a footnote. No, I was like, not the wordsmith, but foster like community engagement maybe or something like that. Is that what you're getting at?
So you can come to our February 1st meeting and promote small cells so we can all stay inside and be on our phones all the time.
Exactly.
Okay, this one's, so maintain our high quality of life. Okay. Provide missing transportation facilities.
I don't get that.
Okay. Missing sidewalks, missing bike lanes, stub streets that need to be connecting the grid.
Complete our transportation network.
That's part of connectivity.
Yeah, that should be in connected.
Oh. Okay. I can move that, yeah. That's fine.
So I think that when we were talking about some of these before, a lot of the transportation can go in different buckets, and I think we talked about that being okay. So for me, it's okay that it's there, but I don't like the word missing. I think, provide transportation or connected, but then it's really unconnected. But yeah.
I think the livable component of that would be I don't know what the words are, but make sure that transportation options are immediately available, within the vicinity of these residences, right? Like people just need to be able to quickly get to where they're going.
So I don't know if there's something
about. Yeah, maybe the
provide
last.
accessible transportation facilities.
Yeah, accessible or last mile, that's the livable portion.
Right.
I'd just say it's easy to get around.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll work on that one. I think it needs to be, I think what we're all saying is that for it to be livable, if I live a block away from a grocery store, but I can't get there because it's unsafe, connected, your safety, that doesn't work. That's unlivable. But if there's ways for me to get there that's convenient and functional, so I'll work on that piece. Okay, next is increase the number and variety of things to do,
Can I make a recommendation?
AKA bowling alley. Oh, yes.
Foster community engagement and volunteerism instead of just a number of things to do, because that's really generic.
And I think you've got some redundancy with the last bullet, that maybe somehow those two can be integrated.
Oh. Yeah. I can with those two. So Ron, volunteer, say yours again?
Foster community engagement and volunteerism.
That's farther up with the foster social interaction community.
I think that's sustainability.
Yeah.
Hold your thought for sustainability.
I do wonder, are parks supposed to be in livable, or do they?
Yeah.
Because I really feel like that is a big part of living.
Yeah, I agree with that. Somehow making sure that parks are close to the places that people live.
Okay.
In either small ways or, just be, that's also part of the whole parks discussion.
Right, that's the question, is parks going to just be an overlay so you don't have to mention it anywhere, or should it be included in all of this?
It should be included everywhere.
Okay.
I think a word that should find its way into here, I think, is culture. Somehow, and I don't know whether I think it's in livable. Maybe it's in distinctive. But cultural opportunities, things like, I know we have the theater in Old Town. More things like that would be a good thing to encourage.
So I think we were thinking, we were thinking it was more in distinctive, because if you look at the description in the green, mine's green, yours looks gray.
It's gray.
So in the gray, I see cultural events up there. I see history, so it might want to squeeze in as another bullet, potentially within distinctive.
Okay.
Agreed.
So one thing that I think should be in this section, maybe it belongs somewhere else, but I think it goes in livable, is schools, unless I'm missing it. But there's no, I don't think there's
Second to last
schools.
That's our last bullet. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
The second to last one.
Neighborhood schools, huh? Okay,
Yep.
there you go.
And we have noise. We have noise a lot in our central Issaquah area, and it's really hard to live with the noise in the central Issaquah area. So there are places I won't go outside comfortably, so I would say.
Yeah, noise and ambient light, maybe. I don't know if there's something, maybe that's more of a design guideline thing, but I don't want it to just be super glowing, or, I don't know.
I don't want to touch either of those. So,
What do you want to do with them then?
well, so
Comfortable.
Have you walked next to I-90 along Gilman lately?
urban places are usually not quiet.
That's true.
Oh, that's not true.
I like how you touch it and touch it again. All right, so I'm looking for majority on 2 suggestions for noise and light. Yes or no?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll retract.
I think they're lovely ideas. I don't know if they would fit in a vision.
I think there is discussion at the neighborhood level where it's specific needs for sound walls
Sound
and
walls.
those sorts of things.
Okay. Yep.
So those I think are more specific.
So you think it's more specific than holistic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm flipping the page. To gray. How come gray's distinctive? Okay. All right, we'll work on that. Not sure I like gray as distinctive. All right. Okay. First one. integrate environmental features such as creeks, lakes, and Mamish wetlands, protected open spaces, and natural views into sustainable development projects to ensure the unique qualities that make Issaquah special for future generations are retained, highlighted, and protected. Done. Perfect. One and done.
Is that not already written in our architectural stuff? It's right there.
I think I stole it from somewhere because it's pretty good.
I just like to celebrate the environment, which I know celebrate is a rough word around here, but that's really verbose. I like it.
All right, I'm seeing like.
It needs work. It's a lot.
It's a lot. A lot of words.
Like it should be 3 bullets. Or a little,
okay.
I don't know.
I mean, if nothing else, you could probably get rid of the ensure the unique qualities and make Issaquah special for future generations. I mean, isn't that kind of what all of this does in some ways?
No, that might be sustainability again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is a great statement, and partly thinking from people in the public reading something like this is like what they're looking for. Maybe wordy, but I think it's great.
Yeah, I like the concept.
I like the concept. I think it stands out because it is so much longer than the next ones. And it could also be maybe 2 sentences.
That doesn't mean that the next one's going to stay there like that.
I don't know. The next one.
What if you change
It does break into 2. It could be broken into 2 at ensure the unique qualities. I think it has sort of a natural break there.
Do you
I
think
like that.
Do you think
Yep.
it's better as 2? Okay, I can do that.
That'll work.
Okay. All right. So there's a partial thought here in some of these. I don't know what was going on. Okay, so something about existing jobs. Gosh. I'm going to say that wants to be
Removed?
Somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
It does not fit.
Unless it's a spectacular, distinctive job.
Well, is it something about the employers that are already here? Or?
Are you trying to do that for Gilman Village?
I would
Or-
love to know what you're thinking here.
I know a good sousaphone player who lives in town.
All right, I'm just gonna for now draw a line through that one, and then maybe it'll come back to me sometime later.
I don't know about the distinctive, but encouraging jobs that promote the environment. I know that when we did the first little thing, everybody was saying, why don't we have more running stores and things that you can use and recreate in the neighborhood.
That is what is it, IPZ stuff? Whatever it is, where you have your distinctive zones that you create within town to give it a sense of place.
So our brand, which we haven't gotten off the ground yet, will likely be focused on outdoor recreation.
Yeah, but it doesn't belong in here.
Yeah. Okay.
Fitting architecture.
I know. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened here.
I like people, places.
Okay. So fitting architecture, let me look at the architectural manual. Let me pull some language out of that. I mean, it's about context. And so let me do something with this one because I don't know what happened, frankly.
I've got 2 that might be added here.
Okay.
Create green streetscapes that are people-oriented.
Yeah.
And I forgot the other one, so I'll have to come back to it.
I think maybe fitting architecture is where we talk about integrating with our kind of landmark buildings that There's also historic is on here. History respected and fitting architecture, I think, fit together.
And there's history respected, and then the last one is respect, is the longer wording, I think.
Right. The longer one was supposed to replace the short one, but I forgot to get rid of the short one.
So maybe combining with architecture in that respect history and respect the architecture.
Yeah, I like the last one.
Okay.
What is local goods and services? Is that about the outdoor brand?
So, local goods, locally produced goods, so the farmer's market, you could say Gilman Village, so there's a number of things that lead to a distinctive quality about our community. And so I think I need to unpack that one. Some of these need to be unpacked, and my apologies. I really don't know what happened with this. So it's intended to talk about, those locally produced goods and services are things that make your community distinctive, or they can.
Maybe something about like facilitate healthy lifestyle or.
I like what you just said about the local services, or local goods and services. I just think that it needs a little more.
It does.
Expansion.
And so I think what happened here is there's a little bit of a, is trying to pick apart and move things from one place to another. And what happened is sometimes I left a reminder and then didn't go back and like really work it. So there's and I hate to go backwards, Madam Chair. So one of the things that was in Livable that might have disappeared, and it's somewhat wrapped into this one, which is local goods and services, is that ability to have those daily needs, so the grocery store, the pharmacy, being able to have those proximate to where you live. That's a livability piece. It needs to go back into livability. And so if you guys are all nodding, I'll add something in about local goods and services in that section as it relates to proximity to residences, without it sounding quite so boring and bureaucratic.
So Keith,
Yes,
is
sir.
there a reason why we don't have a section on economic? Because it seems like we're trying to put a lot of economic values into these different categories, and it seems like we almost need a category of its own. And then we can, you can always direct back to it, but
What would you call it?
economic.
Well, it doesn't.
Economically vibrant.
Robust
No,
or.
what I'm talking about, economic, is actually create a whole nother section, like, we've been
No, I
going through
know that.
sections, but
Yeah, but these are things like distinctive and livable. They're
Vibrant.
visionary words.
Economic
Right.
doesn't fit in there unless you can come up with a different word to describe it.
Like vibrant or.
okay, well,
So
if you had a section called economic, you could say promote gateway to the Cascades to strengthen tourism, because we're not talking about anything about tourism. Improve inner-city mobility resources to businesses, create innovative business parks and mixed-use areas, create opportunities for next-generation business opportunities, entertainment, food and services. We're not talking about restaurant. You have
All right. It would-
actively solicit for new
It
businesses.
would be more like the word thrive.
It could be
Or something
vitality,
of,
thrive.
because thriving means everybody is doing well.
Yeah.
But economics is not a place where I want to live, right? And we're trying to describe a place where we want the central Issaquah to be, to to be attractive and a place to live. So that's, I think, why the word economics isn't the right word, but the concept might be viable.
Right, and we're just missing that category that covers all those things in this piece.
But remember, too, there is a chapter that's called Economic Vitality that helps to address and do these things that are in the policies, to do these things that are in the vision, to get those connections.
But
that
shouldn't
describes how
some of
to do
that also be aspirational, like actively solicit for new businesses in central Issaquah, encourage others to relocate here, or improve inner city mobility? I don't know, it just seems like there's a section missing of vitality, or whatever you want to call it, but just, there's sort of a vacuum. And you're economic development manager, so I would think that you'd want this for sure.
So, okay.
It can be visionary.
So there is the vision on page 69 of the Central Issaquah Plan that's all about economic development. It gives a vision for economic development. It has an economic vitality goal and certain points to it. So I think that's covered there. And we could place the economic things within these sections where they best fit.
I think what Ron might be getting at, and I don't know, thinking about it, but we've got these 4 sections, and there's a few bullet points in each that feel like they almost don't fit, but we want to keep them. So would creating a category called vibrant, or whatever that word is, capture those ideas in a more clear way and still keep our similar structure. We don't have to dive into the whole economic vitality aspects of it, but these are bullets that are already in other sections, just trying to recategorize them. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, I started a discussion about what that might look like, because I just feel that there's something missing, and that's kind of the direction that's missing from what we're talking about as we're going through these. And
well, there's a whole chapter on.
Right. Well, technically, all these are part of the vision if you go deep into the document also, but we're bringing them high and center because these are important values. These are like the pillars of our community, the 4 pillars. Well, there should be a 5th one, whatever you want to call it, but it has something to do with
successful.
It has something to do with finance, investment, and prosperity. And it's a collaborative discussion, so if I'm the only one, I'll just...
Yeah, I'm waiting for everybody else to weigh in.
Well, I would have to deal it like a deck of cards to see how they would all sift out. I don't think I can do it from memory. Maybe.
I think that we did go over that these buckets, that there are things that can go in multiple buckets, but there's also, connected could be part of livable. I think that, and there's overlap, and you could imagine this all as sort of a Venn diagram, but we wanted to break it out. And so I guess I also, though, see this economics as kind of mixed in with all of these other parts, and maybe one option that doesn't involve restructuring the whole thing would be to just call it out at the bottom, so at livable, call it out as the economic component of livable. It would be jobs and supporting local businesses and those sorts of economic parts of livable, and then whatever we want to say about the economics and connected and economics and distinctive, and just more clearly point out that this is the economic component of that aspect of the vision.
Is that what the parentheses are doing?
Yes. Intended. So one of the suggestions was to connect each of the things within our buckets back to the policy chapters. So that's what the PRENs are: either environment, economic vitality, urban community, housing, not on this page.
But you could cluster each of them, and that could be the order, right? Somebody probably just said that.
I think, yeah, well, right. So I think that we talked about doing this in the last meeting, but we didn't see it. And so now that I see it as parentheses, I personally don't think, I think that it might work better to break it into the sections and just have like the economic component as I had just mentioned. And heading, and then those bullets, and then the
kind of like a sidebar, like
other bullets.
you go
Environment.
from one, you're gonna hit each chapter.
So you're going to do that with each one of them?
Well, it's just, so it would just be taking the parentheses and reorganizing by the parentheses, basically, and then not having people look to the header for what the parentheses means.
Okay, so, but you're not adding a economic thing. You're going to keep all of these ideas where they are. So why don't we go through them? We have 2 more sections to do, and we've been here for 2 hours already, so
It's a format.
I'd like to get through them tonight, unless you have a real problem with, you really think that you should separate them. I like the idea of maybe making notes or sidebars or whatever, but we can always do that later.
Yeah, it's a
Let's get
format.
into the meat of this. And so did we go through all of these?
We're down.
There were some additions that I think somebody wanted to make.
So I think we're down to.
I've got just a few more in distinctive. I think we could do more on cultural events and then on space making. Something about creating distinctive public spaces. I think calling that out in there, that's one of those things that really means distinctive to me.
Okay. That will be my unpacking of people places, probably.
Great, because I didn't know what you meant with that.
But don't call it distinctive.
Within distinctive?
Yeah,
It's distinctive?
Something, a different word than
Yes.
distinct, because you have distinct at the top, you have to.
So a couple things that I wanted to throw out here is, what about identifying and protecting key view corridors for distinctive?
Yes.
So it does have that at the beginning. In the first bullet, it has natural views, could be called out differently.
We should be more explicit about them.
And then recreational amenities is part of it. Family friendliness is another thing that's really distinctive about Issaquah, and as other areas have urbanized, they've lost that. And so I think it's really important that we try to keep that.
And the biggest reason, it's gorgeous here, and we don't maintain it as well as we should. So it seems like when you go into the central Issaquah area, your entrances shouldn't just be blackberries and Jersey barriers. And so it seems like the maintenance factor, beautifully maintained or something, even if it's an urban environment, we have to keep it up.
Yep, beautifully maintained to create a welcoming space for people within an urban environment.
And this is where gateways or entrances might be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there a signage component in this?
Right, so that you would know I have entered. It's a distinctive, yeah.
And then art is your last component. It goes with art, goes with culture, history, and all that sort of stuff.
Anyone else?
For those images, you should include one of the art wrappings that we have around those.
The boxes.
Yeah. Good work.
The Arts Commission would love you to do that.
Okay, rolling down. Now we're to some kind of weird yellow color. There are words in the yellow. I can read them for you. Transit streets, bicycles, and walking, and urban infrastructure.
Why is bicycles and walking? Can we just take the and out? But it's relevant.
Yeah. Okay. And Lindsay, thank you for your suggestions on the boxes. So I'll go back and look at yours and see if we'll pull some more stuff in. So yeah, okay, number 1, enhance the integration and connectivity of a complete transportation system across and between modes for residents, businesses, and visitors.
I'd recommend shortening that one, but adding a word, so it would say enhance the integration, accessibility, and connectivity of a complete transportation system, period. Because all the rest is part of a complete transportation system.
Yeah.
Okay?
Recreation, because our trails are part of our transportation system, and being connected with our parks and trails and everything seems, I'm looking to see. Oh, it's not there. So.
Okay, I put trails somewhere. Okay, number 2, improve neighborhood connectivity and remove barriers.
I would take out remove barriers, because I think all you need is improved connectivity. You do that by removing barriers and making more connections, right? You have to say
I
it
get paid
specifically.
by the word, Carrie.
I must have wondered about that.
I sort of like remove barriers only because I see these little teeny tiny 5-foot strips that for some reason have been there for the last 30 years and nobody wants to move them, and they don't even think about removing barriers. So for me, that's a tickler, because they're thinking new sidewalks, new streets, and I'm thinking, there's just 5-foot landscaping strip. So I sort of like it only because I could use it as a tool.
Everybody's getting quiet. Have another cookie.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Okay. Create safe travel routes. Everybody's liking that? Awesome. Human size the grid street pattern.
But it's human size.
It's about here.
5'6" according to me.
It's making smaller blocks. I think we can put some decoder on this one.
So I think, so it's used as a verb, but I think what we want is a human-sized grid street pattern, right? But the other thing was, I think that the pictures of that, the grid, I'm just wondering if there's a way we could get a better picture. Maybe I can suggest one, but a picture that sort of shows more what we mean in terms of blocks, that we want to have blocks and connectivity around it. I have an idea, actually. I have a book that has a picture that I can.
Awesome.
Can you use it?
Well, yeah, I'll look. It's a very old book. I'll look into it.
Is this a new phrase? Is this the green grid?
Yes.
It's all buildings, just see, everything connects.
Okay. Right. Plan for and support the Sound Transit Station.
I know this is under connectivity or connection, but when you plan for it, you want to plan for it as a connection. It's not just enough that it's there. So it is the opportunity to bridge I-90 in a way that can zip back together two sides of Issaquah.
How about utilization of, you plan for it and for the be able to use it.
Mm-hmm.
So I like high occupancy transit, because we want way better transit far before we get to some sort of ST situation. So I don't know if it's another bullet altogether, but we need to work towards something much better than we have right now. So this leaves that out, in my mind.
And that plays on something I was going to suggest later, which is increase the transit services and other transportation services to Issaquah besides ST3.
Right, because I think we're going to be able to transition over to high-capacity transit before we get rail, and we just seem to skip that maneuver, so it's a pathway toward, but...
So it's increase improve existing and plan for future.
Yes,
Something
I mean, immediately adding additional bus routes or
Yep.
circulation.
And I think these are two different things. I mean, I think, so I agree completely with that one. We need to continually increase our transit routes to add ridership. I think this one, though, is to get us off High Center and actually start having a conversation about where is the train station, how do we integrate it in with our community so that we can start planning for that connectivity and the other pieces that we ultimately need. So, okay.
I
Yes,
just
sir.
suggest just spelling out sound transit for
Yeah.
some readers that won't.
And light rail.
Okay. Okay. Provide organized and intuitive wayfinding. Okay.
Better signs, is that what that means?
Yeah.
But just intuitive wayfinding.
Either way.
Well, we wanted to also, so part of this is feeding into this idea that we want to develop that brand and develop a wayfinding plan, so it's all, you know, and it's not just like for businesses and neighborhoods, but it's also for things like the trails. You know, right now, whether it's a King County trail or a city trail or some other trail, the trail signage is not all consistent. And one of the comments that we're trying to get towards is to kind of, I'm going to use that word harmonize because it was a really good word and now it's stuck in my head, is to harmonize those signage so that if you're a trail user, you know, now you catch in your peripheral vision, it's like, oh wait, there's a trail sign, whether it's King County or Issaquah, you don't care because you're just using the trails, right? So having some consistency. So that organized piece, I think, is trying to point us at, let's be purposeful in the signage that we have, and maybe that means actually doing a signage plan.
I think hiking in Europe, where they have, whole countries have entire sign networks that are all the same.
Yeah.
It's genius.
It's simple and genius at the same time.
Consistent, is that better than organized?
Yes.
I don't know if it is. But
I can do that. Yeah.
And I have
So
to.
if you see my office organized is something different.
You have candy.
I'm sorry?
You have candy.
Oh, I
That's
do.
organization, right? So here's, I understand all this, but in living it, I just expect that I'm going to be bored out of my ever-living mind. And when I walk around communities that are that I can get around easily, I also have fun, and I enjoy the entire system. And this is, you have to have a system. It doesn't say you have to have a interesting, good system. It just says you have to have that. So it sort of doesn't have any qualitative, I'm going to live here and this is going to be awesome thing. It's just, wow, you're going to be able to get from here to there. Wear your gray flannel suit.
So Keith, branded signage or branded way signage embraces the brand of Issaquah?
Well, right now, we don't have that.
A brand.
So.
I know. We're a little cart before the horse.
Put it into, well,
I mean, you could have either a sign that looks like a regular street sign, or you could have a sign that looks like salmon. Something really cool. But if we say signage, then, you know, maybe what we'll get is a, one that looks like a street sign, and then that's to Connie's point, it's boring. It looks industrial like every other community, but branded brings Issaquah into the signage and people see it, and that's becomes a
how
brand
about
statement for the city.
attractive? And then that gets us toward that goal without specifying that it has to be on brand, considering we don't really have that idea there yet.
Sure.
I'm wordsmithing, but, you know.
I don't know about attractive.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure about.
So, so I don't I don't disagree with where you guys are at. I think, though, it's more for me in distinctive than it is in connectivity. So connectivity doesn't mean, for me, fun. I think the fun piece is more in the distinctive part. It's in, this is what we want our community to be. We want it to, whether it's a fish or a, outdoor tree or whatever. So that part of it is us. That's kind of the soul piece. And I think this is about, we want to make sure you can get around, and that promotes more getting around. Yeah, I'm so done this week.
I don't know, because if you don't make it attractive, you don't want to get around. You just get in your car and you go, because you've got newspapers flapping around your ankles, and you're in the weeds, and it's noisy, and it's, who goes, right? So something about it being enjoyable. Yeah, I think I've done that before.
So,
one thing is this, this document is largely written for new developments, but I don't think the signage piece that we're talking about is going to apply to them, because if it's going to be consistent throughout the whole network, it's going to be a bigger body that oversees it, and one development will have a say over what that signage type is going to be. So all this, I think, could all come out in a different, whether it's parks or the city's wayfinding. I think it all gets worked out somewhere else anyway.
If they have a system, then you can make the developer do that sign.
So I like the
and stuff, right?
consistent, so I put consistent in, because if you've adopted that plan that Mel's alluding to, then you have to be consistent with that plan, right? And so I think that without saying what that plan is, I think providing that direction here, be consistent, is great. I think that was a great ed.
I'm going to espouse just for one more minute. If you, do you have weather protection? Or anything like weather protection?
It is in a number of the neighborhoods, but it's...
As I wander around cities, I want them to be safe. I don't want to get wet. I want them to be... I don't want to get wet. I want them to be well maintained, and I actually want them to be efficient. Because you want to, at most places you go at an angle. And if you're a commuter walker, then that's why you have all your cuts across everybody's grass, is because people take the angle and they go the shortest routes.
I think you've made a few good points about the weather and the well-maintained. I'm not sure how it fits all into this. They're good ideas.
I don't know how weather fits into it. I mean, we can't control all.
Weather protection.
For example, when you're sitting for your transit stop, you want shelters. You don't want to be out in the rain. So I don't know if it's connected. I just know you aren't going to take the bus if you have to stand in the rain.
I could see a component of new development, mixed use, like canopies over sidewalks. Like, is that something that we want, or is that something that...
It's in the design.
It's in the...
Yeah. So how does that fit into the whole connected conversation, like things that are pathways through, or I guess that's part of the making sure that our connectivity network utilizes that, I guess.
I think you're getting down too low.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. I'm just...
Not you, but
yeah.
I think the conversation is you're getting down too low and expecting to put more stuff in here that we already have in a later.
I can say what my lens is, because this is a mandate. We need to get people out of their cars. And so if the goal is to get people out of their cars and using other modes, then success for me for this is maybe not just connected. It's not using your cars and using all of these great connections we have. So that's sort of the lens that I'm going more for on this. Maybe it's livable. Don't know.
So there is the word efficient, which I think is a good word in there. I'm wondering if we can cover some of this with convenient too, because I think that in public transportation or in transportation, one thing you want is convenient. And so then you have the things that are fun and that you want to get to, and the distinctive, the local goods, the farmer's market, those are like the fun things that you should be able to get to, but then you want to be able and connected to be efficient and convenient.
So I agree. I wrote down efficient and convenient. It wants to get in here somewhere. I also have temporarily put with create safe travel routes safe and comfortable. And I'm not sure I'm there yet, but we'll leave it there for now. Anything else for?
A little wordsmithing on
I know. We'll get there. We're getting there. Snail's pace, we're getting there. All right, are we ready for sustainable?
Not quite. That bullet that has the efficient in it, I like the efficient, I like the connected, I think was the other one. But that bullet is redundant with the first bullet, it seems like, and the bullet that comes after that regarding the telecommunications infrastructure. So just for you to work on.
Well, maybe it is redundant. I had trouble with that, a wide range. I just had trouble understanding what it was getting at that was different than the other ones. So include choices that do not require physical travel. I mean, is that different than?
Yeah, and is that even something that a developer can do?
Well, I just didn't quite, but then there's delivery, so I think it's getting at something that I'm not understanding.
It's focusing on, okay, so sometimes we're try to be future focused, sometimes we don't. This one was trying to say we should envision a community that has a portion of its community that maybe works from home, maybe relies on delivery services, so that's starting to do things a little different. This one, I'm okay if you guys scrap that one.
I sort of like the concept. I don't think I'm a fan of the exact words, because it's choosing not to travel because there's other ways to fulfill your needs. I think is what that's getting at, isn't it? Delivery, telecommunications, drones, that's exactly it. Flaming arrows.
So
Pigeons.
the second half of that, what meeting did we have yesterday?
I don't, well, literally, so I got in trouble because when we don't have a quorum, we're just supposed to shutter the doors. That we're not even supposed to sit here and
Okay, we didn't talk about this yesterday.
I know.
But
So learning moment for all of us. I don't know everything. If we don't have a quorum, we're just supposed to shut down. Yep. So we all learned something. Okay, so that was the meeting we didn't have yesterday.
We didn't have a meeting, but I have a, I think that we can't get people to work out of their house unless we provide them with the correct.
The infrastructure.
The infrastructure, which is telecommuting abilities.
Yep.
And so I think you can divide that into two.
Okay.
I think you just keep the second from last bullet and let it be.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that'll support whatever happens, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So you can take that part out.
All right. So if we didn't get all the way through this, the last one, I'm just going to go last one. Connect central Issaquah to the rest of the city and region, allowing for less car trips per person within a denser city center.
I don't really know what the intent is. I mean, what are you gaining from that we haven't gotten already?
Less traffic.
That's the important piece, if there was one in that.
So could let fewer car trips be somewhere else as an intent? Like up on connected in the green word.
So reduce car trips
Because
per person.
I can't remember what's up there already. It just does seem like that is an overarching goal of it.
Well, you have transportation choices up there, so you actually are saying it twice.
I like it.
Okay. Energy in the room is getting to a vitally low level. Moving on to sustainable. Hey, Blue, thank you. Environmentally, socially, and economically healthy, meeting the needs of current residents and businesses without compromising future needs.
That's a sentence.
I know, this one got to be sentencey, so sorry about that. I think we'll go back to wordy. Okay, number 1, promote socioeconomic diversity. I see 2 thumbs and blank looks. All right, going with 2 to 0.
Sorry, I have a blank look because I was on the meeting needs of current residents and businesses without compromising future needs. I guess to me that just for a vision statement that seems a bit negative, that we're going to meet the needs and we're not going to do things that will hurt in the future. But for a vision, it seems like we could word that more towards how we're going to improve in terms of sustainability, or have a sustainable trajectory, but maybe make it a little more positive.
Yes, we can do that. Probably wrote that during the dark days. Just kidding, sorry. Okay.
Next.
Okay. Create a connected open space and recreational network. Okay. Reclamation and enhancement of degraded, oh my gosh. Sorry. Reclamation and enhancement of degraded natural features and the protection of riparian areas and wildlife habitat are essential to the success of Central Issaquah.
And that bullet is kind of redundant with the 1, 2 down.
Yes.
You could say protection and restoration instead of reclamation and enhancement, or something like that.
This is still a sentence.
Protect and reclaim.
I think of reclaim, I think of mining.
Yeah, I have a background in a lot of land use, and I also, just the reclamation, I'm not sure that captures what we want to say.
Okay. So is there?
Protect and enhance? What is it?
So if things have gone to the blackberries, and part of this is to clean them out, are we not reclaiming them as productive open spaces? I mean, I don't want to be the anti-blackberry and English ivy guy. Apparently I do. So I don't know. So is there a reclamation piece of this? Do we have open spaces? I mean, I actually walked past a wetland yesterday.
I would say,
Can I say restoration?
I would say restore, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead
Okay.
of reclaim.
Okay. Do that.
And
Or
enhance,
restoration.
not enhancement.
Yeah.
Okay. Champion environmental stewardship.
I like that. It's part of our vision.
She's
Leaving out,
stuttering over
what, wetlands?
Which one are you reading?
I'm reading, you went, of course I like champion environmental stewardship.
So there's riparian areas.
Well, we do, we have streams, we have wetlands, we have wildlife habitat. We have forested areas that are degraded. Should they be clustered into less of a defined group and critical areas or something like that? I mean, I don't know. It seems like if you name some and you
Yes.
don't name others, then the others, well, that's not there. So
So would you rather be more specific or more general?
More general.
For this, more general.
So maybe just natural areas.
Mm-hmm.
Champion the stewardship of natural resources. Champion the stewardship of natural resources. Covers everything.
Yeah, we were
No,
still
I
on the
think
one
Connie was
above.
talking about that in
The one above.
reclaim and enhance, which we've now reworded.
Right. It's either you have to name everything or you have to do something general.
Yep.
I would vote for general. I'm not sure the.
Yep.
Okay.
And it doesn't read right, the last are essential to the success of, I think you should eliminate that and just
Yeah.
go with the, yep,
Yep.
restore and enhance the natural features.
Okay.
When you get to each neighborhood, then you could call out the specific features per neighborhood,
Right.
right?
Right. Okay. How about provide adequate infrastructure?
What does that mean in terms of sustainable?
Well.
Or do you know?
Low impact development?
So part of, this one's a little difficult. So part of it is, there could be some criticism now that growth has outstripped some of our local infrastructure, which has then caused an impact on existing residents and businesses. So I think where this is trying to head, although maybe it needs to be unpacked a little bit, is, that the infrastructure needs to be...
Keep pace with growth. Ensure infrastructure keeps pace with growth, though you're using ensure twice in a row.
I just like supports future growth.
Okay.
Or something like that.
Yeah, we'll get that one squared away. Okay, next one, ensure growth pays its share, unless it's school-related. Sorry.
That happens anyway.
It depends on your perspective, I think. I think some people don't feel like they do.
Which is why we're going to address the concurrency plan and all of that.
So as a developer, I can tell you that when you do pay mitigation fees, you don't have control over where they're spent. They can be spent anywhere in the city, and your development's impacts might not be mitigated with the funds that you paid for mitigation. Someone else's impacts may be mitigated instead. So that's just how it works.
Well, I don't agree with that, but
I mean, you could, you guys are the policy board, you could try to change it, because it doesn't work very well the way it works. Do we want to talk about that Central Issaquah plan supports itself and rather than shoving its money out into the rest of the city going on that?
No. You don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Yeah. That shouldn't, so I don't disagree with that as a policy conversation this community should have, but not as part of the visions for Central Issaquah.
I'm going to sneak it wherever I can.
I know you are. Trying to hold the line somewhere.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is that I think that maybe this is a discussion that we should have as a community and are having as a community on multiple levels, but I don't know that that our vision is that growth pays its share. I think it's sort of back to what I would see as It's just not very aspirational. It's maybe something that we should discuss how to do, but I don't know that it fits in a vision.
Is it like a financial sustainability thing where, is that why this is on here? I don't.
Say it out loud. Well,
That's the
It
tenet of
feels
the
out of-
Growth Management Act, is that growth should pay for itself and existing residents shouldn't have to
Right.
pay for growth's impacts.
Right,
So that's
right.
why it's there.
Okay, yeah.
but we're woefully behind on our impact fees and keeping up with,
I get that's
with
part
all
of a
that.
bigger picture. I guess that just feels out of place. But it has to be said somewhere. It is said somewhere.
It's in the plan.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah,
Maybe it's not on the vision.
yeah, I'm taking it out. All right, create a dense and vibrant city center with the goods and services necessary to meet daily needs. Ah, that's where I put it. You put it somewhere, so it went into sustainability.
Kind of like it in livable better, but it doesn't, it's fine where it is.
I kind of like it in livable too, so I'm going to move it. All right, be a model city for green initiatives and smart city initiatives.
I like that one. Specific.
All right,
I don't know what it means.
I don't know what it means either, but it
Do you
sounded
know what
good.
that means? So, if I don't know what it means and she doesn't know what it means, then it means nothing to, because what is a green initiative?
It's capitalized, it must be a real thing.
So in my development agreement, we have to comply with the, what is it, one planet living?
Yes.
As the
That's-
measures?
yes.
So there is a guideline
thing, yes.
that I know what it is.
Yes. I think this is a thing, so I'm going to do some research and figure out
And rather
if it's a
than-
thing.
I think that.
Rather than being a model city for those initiatives, I think we should be open to those initiatives. I think that's what is that what we're trying to say?
No, I want to be aspirational. I want to be a leader.
Okay.
Issaquah wants to be known for its green and sustainable whatever.
You want to inspire other, yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't start be a leader if everything else is reclaim, recommend, change. B doesn't fit in
Lead
there.
the way in.
Yeah. I think
So when you say smart city, there is a whole thing that is smart
Yeah.
growth.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be a smart city, it should be a smart growth initiatives.
I will figure out where I pulled these from, because I didn't make this up. I got this from somewhere. So I'll unpack it, and if there's some references, I'll point you guys at them, and then we can have another conversation about that. But, because I agree with comments, if we don't know what these are, then they're no good. But I think they actually are something, because they're capitalized, and I don't think I did that randomly. Although I could have.
Yeah.
Some, just never know.
Is
All right, you guys.
Is this a place to talk about climate resilience and alternative energy, or
Yes.
like in this part of the vision?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you want to?
Yes.
I think we should address.
What would you like to
both
say?
Those things.
I like what he said.
I already closed my doc. Oh, no, just kidding.
Try to stop you.
Okay.
I think we should be.
I heard climate.
Climate resilience. Climate somehow resilient to climate change, or I don't know what the words are.
Okay.
That's what I'm after.
And alternate energy.
Okay.
There's actually some decent language in a parks thing talking about resiliency and how important it is for green spaces to include this concept of resilience in their planning. So I'll try to send that to Keith and see if he can eke language.
And the other one was, alternative energy.
Wrote that down. Gotcha.
Congratulations.
Wait,
We're not done.
Visions.
I
Oh.
understand. We have one, we've gone through that. Now we can do Lindsay's vision.
okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 different suggestions for a vision statement for Central Issaquah. Okay?
Is one of these the one that was at the front?
Yes, this one with the it that Joan didn't like.
I don't like the it.
This one with the it, this one's in the document now. So this one's the one that the administration put forward. I'm not going to identify the others because people asked for anonymity. Just kidding. Okay, so I'll give you guys some time to read these since I don't think they were shared. Were they shared commission-wide? Okay. So why don't you guys take some time to read these and then let's talk about what.
Make it bigger?
What?
Yeah.
I know. The cord's in the way. Sorry. Then you can't get it all on one
Full
screen.
screen.
There?
There.
Go full screen. Slideshow. Right next to this.
Is that bigger, smaller?
That's better.
Okay. Or spending the next 2 hours wordsmithing. So.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
That was for Joe. Stop here and get a cookie. Thank you for the cookies. Thank you.
Okay. I'm a slow reader and I've read through it, so I'm assuming that you guys have done it. I'm going to say what I want, and then anybody else can come up to it. Normally when you do, you have a vision and then you have something underneath it, and I don't know what that's called. A statement of some kind.
Thesis statement.
But you have the vision first, and then there's some kind of whatever. And so I like the very first one because it's short. It says everything that we need to say. But then I'd like to take some of this and put it underneath it. Not together, not as part of the vision, but as a...
Keith, can you show whether I have to, do you have it?
I don't have my email up. I could. Do you have a hard copy of it?
A hard copy of it.
I can put it on the projector.
Oh,
At least I think I can.
we're reading.
What? All this?
Yes, supporting context. Yeah. Kind of like the supporting context.
Supporting content.
You want me to read this?
I like how
No, I mean-
there's a paper on there already.
I know.
So Joan, what do you like about the first one? Is it the content, or is it the fact that it says Central Issaquah is and kind of provides that as the visionary statement?
So I can swap between the two.
I think it says everything that a vision statement should say. I just like the way it flows. I like its succinctness. I don't think a vision statement should have 2 or 3 or 4 sentences. I think it should be right there in front of you. And I don't think it needs all that. I just like it. That's my thought. I don't, you guys can disagree with me or come up with something different.
I think one of your questions is the question of is blank or will be blank. Sounds like you prefer is, because this is our vision of what it is.
This is our vision.
Not what it will be. Yeah. Instead of talking about evolution and change, we're talking about this is what we see it as becoming.
I think I can put Ron's up. Did you guys want to see it? The rest of Ron's? So, oh, sorry. The gentleman who did the first one. I'm so smooth. All right.
Kick me under the table.
Let me see if this works. Super awesome. That is. All right. Hang on. See if we can do some stuff.
It shows it right.
Good gosh. It's pointed so there's a screen right here. So it's showing on screen. So it should be up here.
Yeah, but we're not seeing their hand.
Vibrant with anger.
That's the dictionary.
I know. Vibrant with anger.
I know.
I'm going to get in trouble. All right. I'm going to say I can't figure Ron's out because I'm not that smart. Put that back. So, sorry. Figure this out another day. Okay, I can read this because I can still read. All right, so Central Issaquah vision. Central Issaquah is an environmentally rich, vibrant, and prosperous live, work, and play urban community that connects people to nature, destinations, and businesses. Underneath it, it says, we are growing our urban community into an inclusive live, work, and play jobs market that serves as a recreation gateway to the Cascades, is connected to the heart of Puget Sound via light rail, and excels in school academia. Located at the headwaters of Lake Sammamish State Park, we are flanked by reaching forested mountains with meandering salmon-bearing streams and have our own salmon hatchery located in downtown. We are a community that finds innovative ways to strengthen sustainability and evolve with protecting our environment, tree canopy, and views. The guide communicates the 4 central pillars: live, work, livable, distinctive, connected, and sustainability, and how it derives strength from Issaquah's overarching comprehensive plan and the regional Cascade agenda and the Mountains to Sound Greenway visions.
Not feeling the vision from it, or like I don't know whether it's getting too specific. Yeah. Yeah, it talks a lot about the different elements of Issaquah without.
It seems like it's about the city of Issaquah, not necessarily about central Issaquah, maybe?
Yeah.
So if you start with Central Issaquah will be a distinguished and use the rest of that. I mean, I like the fact that it says transition gracefully over time, and it accommodates businesses, and so it kind of covers a lot.
Which one are you talking about?
I'm using the cities. You take off the first sentence and you go into Central Issaquah will be distinguished by community amenities and a relationship with the environment that will serve residents and employees, and go from there. I like that.
So I sent mine in too late. I sent it in at, I think, 5:30, so it wasn't up on here, but mine I admittedly was not very creative, so I just I didn't like the it happening because I don't know what it is and why it's in quotes. And then I thought that Central Issaquah, so then just rearranging the first sentence, Central Issaquah will be livable and vibrant city center for our city comprised of thriving business, and then just the rest of it. Because I did like the rest of it, although I also did like some of the more specifics about the environment that were in the previous person's one that was read.
So, what is the end here? Where are we going from here? What do we propose? Do we like the first statement, or do you want to do something else?
So I like the first statement, although I would just suggest making, because live, work, and play is used as an adjective, but it makes it, for me, very difficult to read, especially if you're not seeing live, work, and play all the time as an adjective. So I would just maybe put hyphens or some way, because otherwise I read it with a comma, live, work, and play, and then I get lost in that sense.
Yep.
Well, how about if it said vibrant and prosperous urban community where people live, work, play, and learn?
And then not the connects people to nature part.
Yeah, we've already talked about environmental and.
Okay, say that again.
Central Issaquah is an environmentally rich, vibrant, and prosperous urban community where people live, work, play, and learn.
I like that, but I do like somehow keeping connect with nature, because I think that's specific to Issaquah's vision versus live, work, and play, I think is in a lot of cities' visions.
I also want to address the idea that we're trying to create neighborhoods and a much, I almost want to unpack the idea of urban community to define what we as Issaquah want as an urban community in central Issaquah, because when people say urban community, I'm not sure if they think Seattle or Bellevue. I want to create our version of an urban community. So I'm not sure if that needs a little bit of tweaking there.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to just fill in the blank with the first, insert name of city here. It's it's got to be Issaquah.
Yep. So other things that I think of is maintaining our small town family-friendly feel while growing. Something about that tells me a lot about Issaquah.
Do you want it in the vision, or do you want it
I don't know.
afterwards? I see it more in a supporting statement than I do in the vision. We're not, we're not a small town.
Connectedness.
Yes. Yes. Connected.
And
People step forward.
Yes, but I wouldn't say small town.
Okay,
I
that's
wouldn't do
fine, but still that feel of what makes us unique.
The family-friendly part was brought up earlier. Maybe that could cover some of what we want without saying small town charm or small town feel.
Yeah, we've also talked about wanting to make sure that Central Issaquah is multi-generational too. So I don't know if we want to just come right out and say
Family-friendly.
family-friendly.
Okay.
Inclusive?
Yeah.
Because inclusive is
Good.
culture, age.
They're all good thoughts, and if you want to add, just do any of that, the language and the second part cover what you're saying? We don't have to put all of that stuff in there.
No. Yeah, I know.
But if you want it, I would put it in the
bigger statement.
in there.
Yep.
So what do you mean by the second part? Because how I'm seeing this document is basically you've got the Central Issaquah vision as a statement, and then the green necklace section, and then the Central Issaquah neighborhood map. So what comes right after that statement that you're thinking expands? Oh, you're saying take that first statement on the
Yep.
left and then combine it with...
No, not combine it. Normally, when I've done vision statements, you have a vision statement, then you have a supporting something underneath it. There's always something underneath it. And so I would put what the city is thing underneath it, but not part of the vision. It's sort of a supporting statement
Expands on it,
underneath.
yeah.
I don't know what that's called. It has a special name.
Abstract?
No.
Sorry, I've been really quiet. I think of vision, mission, goals, and objectives to talk about what you're
Yes.
thinking about.
Well, that has a different name. And I wasn't going to forget you. We do have a I have to open up to public comment, so in fact, I thought you were going to sit there and be part of our community here, so.
Well, I absolutely support that. I think that's a fantastic way to organize it.
I agree, yeah.
Okay, so, but I would change
What did y'all just agree on?
nothing.
That first statement as the vision.
So the first statement.
With
The adjustments that we were talking about.
that
Yes.
Victoria had mentioned, changing the live, work, and play, the way it was
Yes.
put
And-
together.
And then I like to add and learn. So somebody mentioned add and learn to that, right?
Yep.
Nailed it?
Yep.
Okay,
I like
I'm with
that.
you on all that.
Okay.
And then underneath is, starting from the central Issaquah, will be distinguished the city's
Okay,
vision.
okay.
And then you go into the green necklace or whatever else you want to go into, but that's,
I actually like the sentence even above it that talks about the connections and the transportation, but, so I would just rearrange it so Central Issaquah will be livable, vibrant city center for our city comprised of this, and then the whole rest of it, because I did like the text,
just take out the.
just not the beginning, first sentence.
What it boils down
That
to.
was the
it's just-
fun part. I was trying, Connie.
So I had a few more things that I kind of
fun part.
included in my stuff as that later description. So neighborhoods in central Issaquah have their own identities, design, and appeal, and it's easy to walk, bicycle, use transit, or drive between them, as well as to the rest of Issaquah and the region. Just kind of something that visionary talks about the neighborhood idea.
So send that to.
Already have.
To Keith and see how you can put that
All right,
together.
we will repackage a Frankenstein version of this and send it out.
It's close.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
No,
It's close.
absolutely.
And you know what, Keith?
Maybe
You did
we-
a fantastic job rewriting that and doing all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we will, okay, so before the next meeting, we will rework a vision, send it out to you guys. Feel free to email red lines back and forth. Let's try and get to the point where we maybe have
I'm
one.
not sure we can do that.
Can we do that?
To me? Sure.
Just directly
Just
to
to
you?
Just to you.
Yeah,
Just to you.
not amongst
Yes.
yourselves,
Okay,
just to me.
you.
And not
But if
copying,
multiple-
I
and
just
not
wanted to
copying
make sure
everyone
that that
else.
was.
Yeah,
Okay.
and only those of you who want to. It's
So
not
if
mandatory.
multiple people are doing that, do you, I was wondering about that, do you have I mean, is that convenient for you to have multiple people sort of wordsmithing?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody wants to completely restructure, though, and everybody else is kind of just wordsmithing what we kind of decided tonight, I'm going to have to tell that one person, hey, look, everybody else was on a different page. I'm not going to do this. You can bring it up at the next meeting. But if everybody's just wordsmithing, I can do that. I've done that before. I'm good. I'm fine with that. You guys may not be fine with it, but
It's going to be close because we've agreed what it's supposed
Yeah.
to say, so he just has to filter it a little.
Okay, so with that, what I had envisioned is the next time, you'll get a red line of this, but I want us to get to those first two neighborhoods and get through those first two neighborhoods. So we'll do that on the 15th. Yeah? If we get a quorum? Yeah. It's not, yeah, I'm just, it's dictatorial at this point. And then on the 28th, we'll do the other two neighborhoods, and then in theory, we'll be done.
Would you put up the
dates?
Yeah, put up the dates again. Put up the
sorry.
calendar, just.
It's every
yeah.
Thursday. We're meeting every Thursday in February.
So, yeah. So small cell is the first. I need you guys to have at least a quorum on the first. So maybe you guys, so here's the deal. With some of our other commissions, where we hit significant workloads, and I assume the bylaws for PPC allow them to break into subcommittees? Yeah. So you guys could, if you want to, say, all right, there's enough of you that you could actually break into two subcommittees and split some of this work so you all don't have to come every Thursday, if that's a problem. But if you'd rather just say, look, let's suck it up and do it, and then it gets easier after we're done with this work item, which I think it does.
You know,
Let's do it.
Can you explain how the subcommittees would work with the quorum and the alternates and that? Is it the same thing? You just would need 4
Yes.
regular members?
No, 4 members total. So with alternates and regulars, you'd break into 2 pieces, but to have a quorum, you need 4. So you'd need to have at least 4 at each meeting to be able to vote on stuff.
Okay.
We're having troubles getting a quorum, and Joy's probably going to be out for a while, that it might be hard to get 4 and 4.
yeah, hers too.
Okay.
Can we maybe do a show of hands? Do we have a sense if we have enough people for any of those?
Well, I have 3 people for February 1st. I've heard back from 3, Vicki, Lindsay, and John. But I just sent it out this morning. Oh, did you say, okay.
I haven't sent you, but I can do it.
Okay,
You
so
can
we
do
have
the
4.
first round?
I can do the first.
Okay.
And this time I will be there.
Thank you.
Okay, so when you do the first, you have to watch something that didn't happen yesterday.
Absolutely.
The non-meeting.
Otherwise, you will not understand it, so that, on that first meeting, we could just knock it out.
That would be great. I can commit to
Because
that.
I already sent the link, so that would be good.
Yep.
Okay. And so tomorrow morning, I will send a link. I will send a save the date for the 15th, because you probably maybe don't know your schedule at this point.
So the 8th is not, so the 8th, although obviously we want as many commissioners as possible, the 8th and the 22nd, we don't need to have a quorum. Well, apparently I do need to have a quorum, otherwise we're not having a meeting.
Is it only for public hearings?
I thought it's only for public
hearings.
I don't know. I got to unpack that with my boss. She gave me a very definitive answer today. So, but we're also going to have park board, so it could potentially be a park board meeting if PPC doesn't have a quorum. I don't know.
Well, they're regular PPC nights, so we should have a quorum on the 8th and the 22nd.
I'm not prejudging. I don't,
Right. It's just Wednesdays are hard for us.
One clarification on that. So we're having like the charrette on the 8th.
Yes.
And then what's happening on the 22nd? Just an extension of that, or?
Well, and so that's, so your chair and I talked a little bit before, and I wasn't at those planning meetings, so you're going to need to talk to Kristen and Trish on whether or not, so the question was raised, do you need to have 2 meetings for the green necklace?
The thought was that the first meeting is location of all the places and how is it actually linked, and that once you figured out the whole network, then the second meeting would be the character. Okay. What does it all look like? How does it all feel? So that we have a better chance of having it happen the way that we'd like it to happen. Okay. So that's how they were breaking it down into 2.
That's good.
Well, we can always see how we do on that meeting on the 8th, and if we end up getting farther through, we could potentially put something in on the 22nd.
Right, and you'll have the park board too, and we'll be in the Eagle Room on the 8th too, and I'll send that out in it's on here, but I'll send that out as well.
And Trish and I are making subcommittees because we have 2 meetings that night, so I'll be at Land and Shore and she'll be at PPC on the 8th.
She likes this.
With the park board.
So I really liked having homework. It meant that I came to the meeting very focused on what we were going to do, and I had pulled together my thoughts on that. Do we have anything that we maybe should be looking at ahead of time for this next?
The neighborhoods, the first 2 neighborhoods, right?
So let me spend a little time on those neighborhoods, because as we saw earlier, they've not been touched for a month, and they could use some wordsmithing. So let me take a little bit of a whack at that, and I'll send that to Kristen, and then she can get it in the right format, because I'm going to be in Vegas from Saturday on. So. We'll have to do things remotely.
I think they have Wi-Fi in Vegas.
They probably have lots of small cells in Vegas.
They're partially connected, but not quite.
Are we doing anything on kind of the structure of how we're putting the information in the neighborhoods?
So last we talked, I thought we were fairly committed to the structure, which is the developer obligations. So there's basically the 4 buckets and then 3 sections, developer obligations, city implementing actions, and measures of success. So if we're sticking with that structure, then I'm just going to wordsmith within that structure and try and go back to the buckets now that, because they've evolved a little bit, and make sure that we have connectivity between the bullets and the buckets.
Okay, and then what was the section above this on, like, the information about the neighborhood?
Oh. So,
Those are, yeah, is that an older version?
this is an older version.
Okay.
But it was the one that I knew I had the neighborhoods in it. So there's the section,
I just meant the description of each of the neighborhoods.
oh.
If there was anything that, structure-wise, I can't remember. It's been so many things.
December. I don't think we did anything up front to kind of pre-describe the neighborhoods until you actually get there.
Okay.
So we can talk about that, if
So
that
as-
makes sense.
If we're at the point, then I would say that we're probably sticking with the structure, so it's just a matter of us wordsmithing.
Right.
Great.
Right. We decided to stick with it the last time instead of starting over again.
Yep.
Are we kind of, so we'll get that information, and you
Yeah.
actually can pull that up now
Yeah.
and start looking at it and seeing if you agree with what Keith comes up with. But this was set up as a public forum, and I haven't had a public forum. So I was going to open up the public forum and ask Steve if he would like to. Or either one of you. I know that I've never opened a public forum at 9:30, but if you would like to say something since you didn't say.
Joan, congratulations. So a couple thoughts. I guess one is, we've talked about wanting the Central Issaquah plan, or Central Issaquah, to be a prosperous area. We've defined that in there. I don't know that we've talked, and I know we're going to get to making sure the vision talks about the environment and the green necklace. I'm just concerned we're losing that overall scope of putting that environmental feel central to what that vision is. I know we have an Office of Economic Development. I don't know that we have an Office of being a green jewel. I don't know who specifically is responsible for maintaining that green jewel outside of the parks area. Is that the Parks Department that's responsible for that, even though it's not a park area?
Well, that's something we're going to talk about.
Okay, I just want to make sure that gets incorporated.
Yeah.
Because that's a big unknown yet. Please keep up the good work. Thank you.
Seeing, you don't have to.
Let me introduce her to, this is Kim Pearson. So she's a graduate student at the University of Washington Evans School of Public Administration. And so I invited Kim to come see how a great city works.
What you're saying is she's more qualified than all of us?
Yeah, so thank you for letting me sit in. It was really interesting to see you work through your vision statement.
I think you need to go closer.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for letting me sit in here. Or I guess it's open to the public, of course. But yeah, we covered vision statements, missions, goals in one of my public policy classes. So it was interesting to see it kind of in action in local government. And so thank you.
And thank you, because now I know it's a vision statement and then a mission statement.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. So seeing nobody else in the audience, I'm going to close the public hearing at 9:35. Is there anything good for the order? Trish, do we need to do anything else?
No? I'll send the minutes in the next packet, not the park board packet, but the 15th. I'll put all the minutes in there.
Okay.
Are you going to send out a thing on homework assignment like we did last time to Lindsay's point?
Well, I think the homework is to look at the first two. I can send it out specifically so people will know to do it.
It's a
But
nice guide
it's
and people remember, and I think it's spot on.
So Trish, don't send them out till I get a chance to update them.
We do? Okay.
Right?
Okay, so if there's nothing for the good of the order, anything else? I'm going to close the meeting at 9:36. Thank you.
Yeah.
All, awesome job.